20 years ago, demons broke through the divine barrier that protected humans and invaded their continent. Since then, a fierce war between the two races began. The war, full of fear and chaos, dragged on for 10 long years. The mage, fighting on the side of the people, summoned the flames, releasing a powerful attack. The battlefield was filled with fury. Humans and demons fought using magic and strength. The warriors fought against the demon lord, trying to hold back the onslaught. The demon lord screamed, "Die!" while the others rushed into battle. At the most decisive moment, when the hero entered into battle with the Lord of Demons, he, having gathered all his strength, defeated the enemy in a fierce battle. This event put an end to the 10-year conflict. 10 years have passed since then. The world has begun to recover, and life in the royal capital has gradually returned to normal. On one of the central buildings hung a guild sign with crossed swords on the sign. Here, in the place where adventurers gathered, someone was writing information in a book with a quill. The bartender with a thick beard, holding a note in his hands, asked in surprise. "Huh." He wanted to know what had happened to his visitor this time. The young man answered slowly that nothing special. The atmosphere around was calm, like that of a tavern filled with the hum of voices and the aroma of ale. He sat alone, leaning his elbows on the counter, looking thoughtfully away, and without much enthusiasm continued that he wanted to resign. It was obvious that he was lost in his own thoughts. His name was Theodore, and he was an adventurer. Theodore was not believed when he said that he had decided to retire. His interlocutor reminded him in surprise that he had been part of the heroes group that had fought the demon lord. Theo just laughed and calmly said that he was just a handyman. He explained that he had only done the dirty work for others. Now, he said, he was just an adventurer. A guildmaster named Victor reacted to Theodore's statement with restraint. He admitted that he did not know how much the guild would be weakened by the departure of one person, but did not deny that it was possible. He himself didn't know exactly what would happen next. Theo continued his thoughts, saying that even if the task board was empty, he wouldn't care. Victor told Theodore that peaceful times had come, so there are fewer tasks. Theodore replied that now mostly young adventurers go underground and explore them. Sitting at the mug, Victor remembered that the members of the heroes group were paid a well-deserved large sum. Theo agreed and added that he was given so much money that he might not have time to spend it in his life. Despite all this, he noticed that he worked on par with the young people. Victor was surprised that Theodore, despite his age, decided to resign. At the same time, the screen indicated that Theo was only 35 years old. Theo admitted with a serious expression that he had dreamed of a quiet life since childhood. He looked at the mug and said that he was just very tired, to which Victor looked at Theodore with a puzzled expression. The guildmaster was surprised to see that Theo said this with such a serious expression on his face that it was hard not to take him seriously. However, he still asked him what he was going to do next. In conclusion, Theo quietly looked away and admitted to himself why he actually became an adventurer. When the main character was 10 years old, his parents died of illness. Then adventurers found him, sheltered him, and began to take care of him. And he, in turn, helped them as much as he could. The young man recalled that he was lucky to find himself in good company. The adventurers actively discussed various issues with him, and he felt at home among them. He said he was lucky enough to be born with 3 skills. The others were shocked by his innate abilities when he first demonstrated them. The first skill he had was the appraisal skill. This skill allowed him to easily determine the properties of objects, such as herbs, which was helpful during his travels. The second skill was the crafting skill. With it, he could craft and repair various objects, making him useful in a variety of situations. The third was the taming skill. This gift allowed him to understand monsters and, if necessary, tame them, avoiding confrontations. All 3 abilities proved to be extremely useful in the adventurer's life. Some even started quarrels, arguing over who invited him to the team first. Then Theo remembered a girl approaching him. She smiled at him. The hero was surrounded by the entire group. He remembered how at that moment he was invited to join the hero's squad, the moment from which everything changed. The man said that after the war ended, the group of heroes was disbanded. He asked what the main character was going to do after leaving. The main character thought about buying a farm in some village, in the wilderness, and living there. He noted that he grew up in a village and knows how to handle the land. The guildmaster asked him in surprise if he really wanted to trade the life of an adventurer for growing vegetables. The protagonist responded by wondering how he could be useful in peacetime. Suddenly, Victor suggested that Theo take up exploration of the New World, which greatly surprised the young man. He spoke of a mysterious new continent that appeared after the demons were defeated. No one had seen it before the war, and its origins remain unknown. Victor explained that people believed that the continent's appearance was due to the disappearance of the protective barrier against demons. He added that the first expedition to study it would soon be organized. Victor added that the main character's skills could be very useful on the new continent. He asked to think about the offer and give an answer later. Victor continued that this could be the last adventure for the main character. He added that there was a lot of undeveloped land there and asked what he thought about it. The protagonist imagined a hut in a sunny forest, as if thinking about a quiet rural life. He thought that a quiet life in uncharted lands didn't sound so bad after all. The old man with a beard asked if the protagonist was interested and added that he could go with him. The protagonist, a little embarrassed, agreed. The protagonist, after some hesitation, signed the papers. The old man was happy and noted that everything had become much better. He added that experienced adventurers would be useful on the new continent, because it was unknown what might happen there. The old man began the conversation hesitantly, and the main character only smiled in response, scratching the back of his head. The protagonist said that he was glad to work with an old man named Victor. He suggested that this task be considered the last. Victor happily noted that the guild will always remember Theodore's contribution. He spent the remaining time after leaving the guild preparing for the journey. Theo went into the store to buy everything he needed. After that, he met with his current groupmates. Having said goodbye to his comrades, he left the tavern where they were sitting and finally said to himself, "Finally." Having reached the port where the ships were standing ready to sail, Theodore happily began loading things. The place where he ended up was called the port city of Kaliali. It took the protagonist a whole month to complete all the preparations and arrive at the port to set sail for the new world. He looked confident, ready for the upcoming journey, although in his soul he felt a little nervous. While walking around the city, a little girl caught up with him, calling out to him joyfully. She ran happily after him. The little girl handed the hero a handful of candies and offered them to him with a smile. Her kindness touched the young man and brought a warm smile to his face. The hero thanked the girl for the treat and, gently patting her head, said that a difficult path awaited him. He knew that there would be many trials ahead. Victor met him and said that the world had changed in the last 10 years. The hero thought about it, remembering how much life had changed. Victor continued that they had been waiting for him for a long time. The hero did not expect to see Victor at all and asked in surprise why he had come, since they had already said goodbye. Victor brushed aside the suggestion that he had come simply to see her off. He looked determined, as if he was about to voice an important decision. There was a momentary pause, and birds flew over the port. The hero froze in thought, not understanding what Victor was leading to. Finally, the young man reminded that he himself was going to swim with them, where Victor would be the team leader. The young man asked again if he was really serious, to which Victor confidently confirmed. The old man said that he had seen his grandchildren and was now ready to set out, even if it was his last journey. He confessed that he dreamed of living his life to the end as a true adventurer. His words sounded with sincere calm and inner determination. The hero was surprised to remind him that his interlocutor was already 70 years old and asked what other adventures could happen at that age. But the old man only laughed, noting that dwarves live longer than people. His cheerfulness and confidence left no doubt about his intentions. The young man thought that there was no point in worrying about such a comrade. He felt relieved because he realized that Victor had enough strength and spirit to cope with any difficulties. His face expressed calm and respect. This dwarf was known as a dragon slayer nicknamed Bloodwind. Before he led the guild, he dedicated his entire life to battle. He came from a noble family, but treated everyone equally, which is why he was respected. The hero acknowledged Victor with admiration as an outstanding warrior and leader. According to him, he considered him a hero even more than a real hero. His gaze showed sincere respect. The assembled allies, each with their own character, were a motley but strong team. Among them were serious fighters and scientists ready to explore the unknown. This filled the atmosphere with the spirit of anticipation of a great journey. The hero exclaimed in response with a slight smile, feeling the tension gradually disappear. He felt better because he saw so many reliable people nearby. Victor introduced the scientists, a geologist, a climatologist, and a monster researcher. They were joined by 15 adventurers with different skills, forming a squad of 20. This team looked prepared and ready for a challenge. The hero introduced himself as Theodore and greeted the others with a smile. He noted to himself that they all looked quite young. Upon seeing Theodore, the adventurers were delighted to recognize him as the same jack-of-all-trades Theo and did not hide their delight. They expressed that it was a great honor for them to sail with him and were sincerely happy about his presence. The young man with big eyes couldn't believe his luck and enthusiastically reminded him that Theo had helped the heroes group in everything. His companion added that he was looking forward to seeing with his own eyes what he was capable of. Theodore turned to Victor in confusion, disturbed by his words, which had turned him into an object of general admiration. Victor calmly admitted that he had said exactly what was needed, assuring that the young man should have guessed what it would lead to. Soon the command to sail was given. Victor, clapping his hands, urged the squad on, reminding them that the sun was not waiting, and it was time to start the journey, to which Theo, sighing slightly, finally gave his consent. Arriving on deck, the protagonist inquires about the lack of a crew. Victor regretfully explains that they cannot take anyone extra, and all resources are strictly limited. Victor expresses a wish that a larger ship be allocated for the expedition. After clarifying the situation with provisions, Theodore realizes that upon arrival on the island, the first thing he will need to do is find food. He then asks if there is a way to preserve food supplies, to which he receives a confident answer that everything has already been provided. The interlocutor immediately agrees and is ready to offer a solution. Victor proudly produces the magical bag, claiming it is from the National Vault. He assures that it will be an indispensable artifact on their journey. The magic bag turned out to be much more capacious than it seemed and was capable of storing food and water for 2 weeks. Moreover, its contents were not subject to time and did not spoil. The old man, beaming with joy, boasts that with difficulty but still managed to get such a valuable artifact for their team. Theodore, with a stone face, looks at Victor and asks for an explanation. The young man asked permission to look inside the magic bag, assuming there must be a lot of stuff there. His companion, in a panic, shouted at him to stop. The embarrassed young man apologized when he heard that the guild had to rent a bag since they were not in the best of situations right now. The bearded man admitted with annoyance that this was exactly how things turned out. The young man inquired about his companion's health, and he wearily replied that he was fine. After that, the entire group began preparing to sail. One of the crew noted that the wind was favorable today, and another encouraged the others by saying that everything was going well. The ship's captain gave the order to sail. The old man offered the young man to pass the oar to someone else, but he refused, explaining that he liked to work, and added that here one could die of boredom without doing anything. The young man enjoyed rowing and noted how nice it was to feel the teamwork. He added with a smile that they were all working for the common good. The ship left the port and the captain shouted loudly to the adventurers to move forward. The ship sailed out to sea, leaving behind only waves and the silhouettes of seagulls circling above the deck. The young man, looking at the map, noticed that the wind was in their favor. The bearded man agreed, saying that if things continued like this, they would quickly reach the continent. 2 girls on the ship expressed the thought that perhaps the gods had blessed their journey and began to pray. The young man watched as several of the crew prayed and thought that some adventurers were quite religious. He supposed that it made it easier for them to accept death, but at the same time he felt that things were not going so smoothly, and decided that it was too early to thank the gods. The ship began to stop, to which Theo thought that this was not a good sign. Looking at the map, the old man noticed that the wind had stopped. The young man confirmed that this was true. The guy with the book, who called himself a climatologist, explained that, according to his calculations, the wind would not appear anytime soon. He admitted that he could not say exactly when it would rise again. The hero asked with a worried look if even scientists really didn't know when the wind would rise. The climatologist explained that the open sea was unpredictable, and such weather could last from a couple of days to a couple of weeks. One of the adventurers, hearing this, exclaimed in fear, clarifying that it could even be a matter of several weeks. Showing the sacks of provisions, one of the group members worriedly reminded them that their food and water supplies were not endless. He asked if there was a safe place or a town nearby where they could take refuge. The crew members were talking amongst themselves, surmising that if the wind didn't come soon, they would have to find a solution. One of them noted with alarm that this was already becoming a problem. Another man with a beard and his comrade confirmed with concern that if things continued like this, then their entire group will simply die. The protagonist asked in bewilderment why the concern had suddenly arisen and said that he was able to turn seawater into fresh water. He demanded that they bring him seawater, which caused some slight confusion among those around him. One of the crew members began scooping up seawater, explaining that the main reason people don't drink it is because of the salt. The hero used his ability to remove the salt from the water, turning it into a drinkable liquid, which made a strong impression on the team. One of the comrades immediately drank the resulting water to check its suitability. Having tasted the water, the companions exclaimed that it was indeed fit for drinking, and with relief they realized that now they would not die of thirst. The team cheered, thanking the protagonist for saving them, while he modestly stated that he was overrated. Some of the crew members began to rejoice and laugh, and one of the girls turned towards the team. Suddenly, a loud cry came from the ship, which attracted the attention of everyone present, causing surprise in the girl with glasses. The crew spoke anxiously among themselves, noticing that something strange was happening in the water, and this creature, according to them, was hostile. The captain suddenly calls Theo to follow him as panic breaks out on deck due to the approaching threat. The protagonist looks forward in amazement, mentally exclaiming that he sees something completely incomprehensible and shocking. From above, they show something approaching in the water, the size of which exceeds 10 meters, which causes serious concern. The captain turns to Theo with a serious expression and says that if the situation gets out of control, they need to be prepared for the worst outcome. One of the team members suggests that it might be a dangerous monster and suggests attacking first to avoid risk. The main character, hearing the scream, turns in surprise towards his frightened comrades, clearly not expecting what was happening. The creature in the water is rapidly approaching. The team prepares to attack. The heroes take defensive positions, preparing to repel a possible threat. There is a strange sound and a tense silence, emphasized by the dark background, instilling a sense of the unknown and fear. When the creature appears at the side, it turns out to be a cute, friendly creature, causing confusion and surprise in Theo and the captain. The creature continues to make friendly sounds, splashing around near the ship, and the heroes on deck are perplexed, not understanding how to react to the unexpected visitor. One of the team members admitted that he had never seen such a cute animal, and another wondered why it was so cute. However, the man with the beard demanded not to relax. The older man beckoned to Kelly, gesturing for her to come over. The protagonist turned to face the girl who was at the other end of the deck. The protagonist remembered that Kelly was a monster researcher. He noted that he had heard many different rumors about her, and that she graduated from the Royal Academy at a young age due to her intelligence. Kelly compared the creature to a hippopotamus, which is found in rivers. She added that such creatures do not live in salt water, and admitted that she does not know why it is so large. The researcher exclaimed happily that this might be a completely unexplored species. She noted with admiration how magnificent it was. When asked if she had any information about this creature in her notes, she replied that she could not give a precise answer, since this species was not described anywhere. The girl added that usually creatures like this one may indeed not be aggressive, but she was not sure of this. She explained that these creatures do not like it when someone enters their territory and try to get rid of uninvited guests. On land, they can move at a speed of up to 40 kilometers per hour, and even faster in water. The researcher enthusiastically suggested calling the creature a sea hippopotamus, which surprised one of her companions. An elderly man, observing what was happening, noticed that everyone was tense. The protagonist admitted that the situation needed to be resolved as soon as possible. Theodore asked Victor if it was possible to approach the creature. The young man confidently stated that he wanted to try to tame this creature. He walked up to the railing and began to watch the sea hippopotamus, which was calmly swimming in the water near the ship. The elderly companion only anxiously warned the hero to be careful. One of the companions orders the others to remain calm and not move while the protagonist uses his abilities to tame the creature. The young man mentally notes that Victor turned out to be an excellent leader, which allows him to focus on the task without being distracted by others. The protagonist prepares for action, thinking that the absence of strangers is good because he needs to concentrate and the presence of others would only interfere. The creature continues to watch the events from the water, showing no hostility, calmly swimming in front of the ship. The protagonist releases a thin beam of light from his hand, which rushes straight towards the creature, establishing magical contact with it. He addresses the creature by the nickname given earlier and asks what it wants from them, to which it only silently looks back. The companions watched the scene with bewilderment, wondering whether the creature really came of its own free will and why it came so close. The protagonist assures the creature that they will not harm him and notes to himself that he senses no hostility from it and that it does not even seem hungry. The creature responds, "I see." He thinks out loud, trying to understand the creature's motives, and asks it to explain why it came to them. The creature tries to express its emotions with its entire appearance, uttering a drawn-out "well," as if it cannot find the words. The sea beast, beaming with friendliness, admitted that he approached them only because he found them interesting. The young man from the ship looked silently at the creature, who responded with a joyful sound. The protagonist laughed and said that the beast was simply interested in them. He added that if he wanted, he could swim with them. The creature happily exclaimed in agreement. The old man asked in surprise why the hero seemed so happy with the creature. The hero calmly replied that everything was fine and assured that he had simply told the beast that it could swim with him because they liked it. The old warrior approached the hero with an idea. He asked if he could ask the beast to push the ship, because hippos are very strong. The young man thought about the proposal and agreed to try, imagining in his mind how the beast was pushing the ship. Meanwhile, the beast swam in the water, showing no signs of aggression. The hero thought that the decision was still his. The protagonist came closer and said that they had some problems. The wind had died down and the ship was not moving. He asked the beast if he could push the ship. Taming consists of 3 steps. First, you need to talk to the creature. Then you had to establish a relationship with it through an equal exchange, and finally give the order. However, if the monster does not do this of its own free will, the taming is considered unsuccessful. The young man said that he was at the 2nd stage of taming and was watching the creature from above, assessing its reaction, and if the creature did not want to, then it would be possible to simply ask it to leave. The creature expressed its willingness to help, to which the young man thanked it and offered something in return for its help. The young man began to offer various reward options, including food and a magic stone, but the creature consistently refused each of them. Even when the young man offered many things, the creature continued to refuse, leaving him confused. The young man began to get irritated, complaining that he was not succeeding and that he could not simply ask for help without reciprocity, doubting whether everything was all right with the creature. The creature finally spoke, asking the boy to share his mana, making it clear that this was the desired exchange. The young man was surprised when he realized that the creature wanted to become his pet and asked again if this was really his wish. The creature answered affirmatively. The young man thought, noting that for some reason his mana was very attractive to some monsters, and this was not the first time. He remembered that such cases had happened before, and earlier the monsters themselves asked to become his pets. Now they live in different parts of the world. The creature, jumping joyfully in the water, demanded mana, to which the young man responded with consent and promised to give it right away. The main character thought about how best to name the sea hippopotamus because every pet needs a name. He decided to begin the taming ritual by activating the magic circle in front of the monster. Some of the team members were shocked by what was happening and watched in amazement. The protagonist loudly pronounced his name, introducing himself as Theodore Durkheim. He shared his mana with the creature and gave it a name, Bedgleth, while also becoming its master. The creature confirmed its taming by recognizing Theodore as its master and calling itself Bigoluaf. The completion of the magical contract occurred, and the light from the circle engulfed the sea hippopotamus. An older friend approached Theodore and asked about the result. The hero reported that the taming was successful. However, immediately after this he felt ill and, staggering, he leaned on his companion. The team captain exclaimed in concern, asking what had happened to him. But Theodore only replied that he felt unwell. The protagonist thought that he had always been confident in his abilities, but now he was experiencing something unusual and disturbing. He noted that even when he had made a contract with the powerful dragon, he had never felt as strange as he did now. The young man thought about the sea creature he had just established a connection with and tried to understand what it really was. Watching this creature smile widely, the hero noted that it was also smiling, causing him misunderstanding and slight confusion. The hero asked the creature named Bigeliaf if he had received the mana that had been transferred to him. The creature said with a satisfied look that the mana was very tasty, which caused a slight smile and surprise in the hero. The young man, watching the scene, said he was glad the creature liked it and noted that his speech was becoming more and more clear and confident. He reminded Bogeliath that it was now his turn to fulfill the promise he had made earlier, urging him to action. A group of people reacted in panic to what was happening. Someone shouted, "What?" Another tried to stop, but the creature had already jumped into the water, preparing to act. Panic broke out on board the ship with people screaming, clinging to the railings, and trying to keep their balance as the ship was carried along at breakneck speed. Everything was thrown into motion when a huge sea creature, Bogeliath, leapt into the water and began pushing the ship. Theodore, startled by the sudden speed, tried to shout over the noise and coax the hippopotamus to slow down a bit. The young man was genuinely surprised by how powerful and at the same time fast this creature was. Its size seemed deceptive. He expected sluggishness, but saw amazing energy and strength. Inside himself, he admitted that this creature was much more interesting and mysterious than he had previously imagined. Victor, one of the comrades, shouted joyfully that everything had turned out wonderfully and the job had been done perfectly. Theodore, despite the raging water and the instability of the vessel, grinned back and confirmed his words. At that moment, both felt relieved and proud of what had happened. The men laughed, happy that the journey had started off well, but suddenly Theo tensed up. He noticed that something was wrong. The ship suddenly began to slow down, and the movement became much less sure. He immediately suspected that the cause was Baigale and called out to him, asking if he was tired. It turned out that the hippopotamus was not exhausted at all, but was simply upset. The creature was upset that Theo wasn't watching him as he worked hard to push the boat. It wanted praise, recognition of its efforts, and it took the attention as a sign of approval. The young man was perplexed. The protagonist observed the creature in the water and noted to himself that it behaved like a child. He was surprised to realize how much childishness was evident in its behavior. And then he added that the creature, on top of everything else, was also incredibly cute. Theo, realizing this, promised with a smile to watch him while he worked, and Bogeliath immediately cheered up. The creature snorted contentedly and set to work again with redoubled enthusiasm. True, the young man set a condition, to swim more calmly, but it was obvious that the hippopotamus's joy drowned out this moment, and he simply did not hear it. Despite all the unexpectedness, the encounter with Bogeliath was not only unusual, but also useful. All the travelers admitted that this creature brought them only benefit. It became an important part of their journey. Theo created a windbreak. He added that everything was fine, clearly pleased with the situation. Their journey continued in more comfortable conditions. Bogeliath watched this with great interest. Humming something, he looked thoughtfully at the caught fish. The ship sailed quietly. The main character and his new companion looked into the distance together. A week passed. One of the crew members excitedly noted that he saw land. They were approaching it. The boy said that he saw a new light. Everyone looked at the view in amazement. Theodore thanked the hippopotamus, noting that thanks to his help, they were able to get here safe and sound. Bogeliath smiled and made a satisfied sound. People started to get off the ship and onto the boats. The young man noted that after everything that had happened to them and they had finally arrived, everyone was in a good mood. Theodore exclaimed confidently and proudly that they could now begin their exploration. Their new companion timidly asked if he could go with them, to which Theo replied that Bogeliath was now his pet and they could go on the journey together. The young man cried out in admiration. The second traveler looked around the unfamiliar lands with amazement. He exclaimed that he now understood what this new continent was like. Ahead of them, there was much that was unknown. They discussed the unusual nature of the new continent with admiration. The travelers noted that the animals and vegetation here were completely different from the usual ones. The situation became more and more interesting with each passing minute. Victor, the expedition leader, gave the group strict orders to remain calm. He warned them not to touch anything for now, for their own safety. The team froze, awaiting further instructions. He was getting orders that they needed to decide on a course of action. First, they needed to make sure that they were safe here for now, and then they could use the boats and move the cargo from the ship here. The older man with the thick beard said that he understood the feelings of the others because they were the first people to land on this shore. He noticed that the others were very worried and turned to the young man, expecting his consent. The young man with the boxes in his hands was busy with his work when Bogeliath suddenly appeared next to him. Someone shouted at him to be careful and another called out to Theodore, trying to get his attention. Theo was surprised and turned around when he felt movement next to him. Theo's older companion was concerned that Bageliov was acting in a way that could cause him to accidentally fall. He called out to the sea beast, warning him of the danger. Theo noticed that the hippopotamus had not left his side since he became his pet. The young man admitted with a slight smile that it was really difficult to refuse such a cute creature. The hippopotamus looked at Theodore so sweetly that he especially noted this. The man thought about how he always wanted to protect a sea animal when he looked at it. Victor thought that it was stronger than all of them put together, but he still felt the need to protect him. Then Theo added that the animal's affection was like a miracle. The old man suggested that perhaps he had feelings for it because of the duckling syndrome, but admitted that he liked it. The young man said that the current situation would not stop him. He clenched his fist, full of determination, and emphasized that right now his main task must be accomplished. A clear intention appeared in Theo's mind to build a camp. One of the explorers said that their goal was to study this land and then cultivate it. He noted that they urgently needed to build a place where they would be safe. His interlocutor noted that if they did not manage to build a camp before nightfall, they would have to spend the night in the open. Theo, remembering the past, sighed and said that sleeping on the ground had once been a habit for him. However, now he admitted that he did not like it. The hero remembered how it was during the campaigns, when everyone just fell asleep on the grass. He quickly decided that he needed to speed up, and said so out loud. His companion urged him to get to work quickly. From the ship, Theodore spotted a suitable spot on one of the hills. He noted that they were lucky, because part of the continent was clearly visible from the ship. Theodore plans to suggest starting to explore the area from another point. Behemoth called Theodore. Bageliov asked if they were going to build houses in this place at all, and timidly asked if he would have his own home. Theodore was surprised. The young man answered the hippopotamus in the affirmative. Theo admitted that although he had agreed to the construction, he was not confident in his abilities. He noted that it would require collecting a lot of materials, after which he joyfully exclaimed that the house would definitely be built. Bageliov looked at Theodore with affection. The old man said that he was just manipulating them, and the creature itself looked pleased and said the young man's name. But since the creature was now part of their group, he didn't mind. The senior participant, with a gentle smile, urged the young man to stop worrying and finally get to work. He added that everyone was relying on his abilities while the rest of the squad were already busy cutting down trees. The young man said with a smile that he understood. Using his ability to judge, the young man conducted research and came to the conclusion that the selected wood was almost ideal for any needs. The old man noted that all the members of the group were very experienced and had unique skills. But what impressed him most was how hard they worked. Victor added that building a home for 20 people was a very difficult task. The warrior warned the others to be careful. A tree was falling. The elder calculated that with 4 people living in a house, they would need 5 houses, as well as one separate one for the creature, after which he sighed that there was still a lot of work ahead. The young man, looking down slightly, apologized for his comrade's behavior. Noticing the creature looking at him, he turned around, and the hippopotamus responded with concern, asking if something had happened. The young man, with a gentle smile, reassured his companion that everything was fine. He thought to himself that he was a real cutie after all. Then the young man admitted that they would have to live in difficult conditions until they had collected enough materials. The sea creature asked with a worried look if it could help. At the same time, it tried to console the young man, telling him not to worry so much. Suddenly, the creature confidently moved forward, surprising everyone present. One of the companions wondered what it was going to do, to which the young man admitted with slight embarrassment that he himself did not know. The 2 warriors, watching what was happening, chuckled. One of them asked the creature what he wanted to help them with, and then noted ironically that it didn't even have arms, which caused a friendly laugh. Bageliov suddenly developed sharp horns. Everyone around became alarmed. The young man watched in surprise as the sea hippopotamus began to do something near the tree and admitted that he himself was seeing this for the first time. The man noticed that the hippopotamus's horns seemed to be made of mana, after which the creature suddenly struck the tree, causing it to fall with a crash. The young man watched in amazement as the uprooted tree flew away. He was amazed that the hippopotamus's horns, made of mana, had such incredible power. One of the team members ordered everyone to move away so that the tree would not crush anyone. Soon, a neatly stacked pile of wood and stones lay in front of them. The man with the thick beard was stunned that all the necessary materials had been prepared in less than a day. He could not believe that all this had been done by a hippopotamus who was so eager to help. Begaliaf, holding a tree in his teeth, looks pleased, but one of the group members notes that despite his friendliness, he may be dangerous. She shares her observation with the protagonist, who listens to her attentively. A monster researcher named Kelly concludes that the creature is a member of the dragon family. Her statement sounds confident, and she explains that this is not just any animal, but a representative of a powerful and dangerous species. The protagonist and the old man are shocked to the core when they hear that there is a dragon in front of them. Their reaction is one of disbelief and shock, because the creature seemed harmless and cute on the outside. When Kelly confirms that she is talking about EXILED, everyone present is stunned. One of the men tries to soften the situation, saying that he understands the feelings of the researcher. Because this statement completely changes the perception of the creature, the monster researcher said that based on her observations, she had made conclusions about the creature during her journey, studying its body. The protagonist responded to her conclusions with interest. The protagonist admitted that when he tamed the creature, it behaved rather unusually. The researcher concluded that the creature most likely belongs to the earth dragons and there are no other options. The girl was shocked to learn that the creature had absorbed more mana than even a high-ranking monster. She asked the protagonist again, not believing what she had heard, and asked him to repeat it. They began to discuss whether to tell the other members of the group that the creature was a dragon. The protagonist was worried that it might cause panic, but the older man said that it was not worth doing. The researcher, overcome with excitement, asked permission to examine the creature further. She admitted that it turned out to be much more interesting than she had initially assumed. The researcher suggested that this creature used to live near the continent. She noted that it was impossible to determine its gender or diet from its appearance, but it seemed omnivorous. In terms of size, it was still a child and had yet to grow and develop. The young man asked her doubtfully if she was in her right mind. The elderly companion calmly said that scientists always have oddities and advised her not to pay attention. However, the girl wondered where this creature came from. She was interested in where it came from and who it could have been before. She felt that there could be a whole story hidden behind the creature's appearance. The interlocutor asked the little creature that was looking at him with curiosity how one could tell that someone was an adult. The creature looked at him carefully, not immediately understanding what he was getting at. In response, they explained to him that age can be determined by the shape of the tail. They showed an example. An adult's tail is longer and straighter, while a child's is shorter and has rounded features. Theodore stroked the dragon and said, "That's how it is." The young man realized that the creature was behaving this way because he was still a child. Theo wondered what would happen when a dragon grew up and suddenly crushed him. But he immediately dismissed these thoughts and decided not to think about it. The woman said with interest that she had become even more curious and asked to tell her everything that could be learned about the creature. After which, she said mysteriously, "You know what?" She suddenly approached the man and, with a tense look, demanded that if he learned anything new, he should tell her about it first. The man was confused and had difficulty answering. The protagonist said that he had explored the area and noted that the land here was fertile, which meant that the camp could be established in this place. The listeners approved of his decision. The bearded man added that the site was far enough from the river that they would not be flooded in case of bad weather. He was also pleased with the availability of free space suitable for building houses. The hero standing next to the creature noted that all the materials had already been collected thanks to his help. Another man noted that the creature had worked for 10 people. The protagonist decided that since the land had already been found, construction could begin. The young man assured that everything was fine, although he was asked with concern about possible problems. He thought about having a clear picture of everything he needed before he started. He collected his thoughts and emphasized that imagination was the key to everything. One of the observers did not immediately understand what he meant, but the young man explained that one must carefully imagine the end result. He mentioned that the more complex the thing, the more details need to be taken into account, otherwise nothing will work. He also noted that he does not want to spend a lot of time, so Theo is going to do it quickly. Concentrating, he began to use the skill to turn the wood into bars by manipulating the magical energy. The hero pondered the process of turning rock and sand into glass, noting that the end result was already thought out in his head. He added that the next step would be to transform the rock into metal. His monologue was interrupted by a promising, and therefore, finally Theodore built a large and beautiful house. He impressed everyone. People watching the process were amazed by the speed and quality of the work. They could not hide their surprise at what they saw. One of the young men was surprised that everything was ready since less than 10 minutes had passed. The other one confirmed this in confusion. Inside the house, one of the guys was amazed. He did not expect to live in such a place with private rooms. He noted that even the glass here is of high quality, and it all resembles an aristocrat's palace. The group of friends expressed their gratitude, admitting that they would not have managed without the young man's help. One of them admitted that he had always been interested in how the exploration of the new continent would proceed. The young man himself enthusiastically promised to build the remaining buildings by the end of the day. The others admired his abilities, but the elder asked him to rest a little. However, the young man continued to work despite the persuasion. He said that there were only 3 houses left. Finally, the entire camp was completely built. Several houses stood in neat rows, and it was announced that the camp was complete. The character asked irritably why they hadn't listened to him, reminding him that he had warned them of danger. He then wearily noted that the door looked different from the others, turning to Theo for an explanation. Theodore began to answer, but was interrupted by the dragon's cry. The dragon's cry was heard. He was calling Theodore. He brought them the game he had caught. Everyone was very surprised. The Geliath asked Theodore whether he liked it or not. The young man exclaimed in surprise, asking if he had really understood everything himself. There was amazement in his voice from the sudden realization. The dragon firmly stated that he wanted to continue helping, demonstrating his determination and dedication to the common cause. With his words, he hit the nail on the head. Big Geliath looked with huge eyes and said in admiration, "Wow!" The young man said that the door was made so that the creature could open it on its own. He added that it did not let in the cold, so it would be warm inside even at night. Then the creature suddenly flew into the building with force, knocking the young man off his feet. The boy, stunned and dizzy, found himself on the floor. The creature, clinging to the boy, expressed gratitude to him, saying that he liked it. It addressed him by name, thanking him for his care. The young man, with a kind smile, replied that there was nothing to thank for, addressing the creature by name. Evening came and happy people gathered around the fire. They proposed to raise their glasses, celebrating the end of a hard day. The bearded man thanked Theo for his work, to which Theo replied that he was always happy to help, noting that the drink was quite good. He added that he was glad that everything was resolved quickly and without consequences. One of the group members suggested having a good rest today so that they could get down to business with renewed strength tomorrow. Everyone unanimously supported this suggestion. The young man noted with delight that the boar was very tasty. The girl next to him said that the meat literally melted in the mouth. One of the comrades noticed that the little animal also wanted to try the meat. The warrior looked at it with interest, bringing the food closer. The group of scientists expressed their joy at having a camp and the opportunity to get to know each other properly. One of them suggested introducing themselves through stories. The girl with glasses noted that there was a lot of volcanic rock nearby, and the young scientist added that perhaps the nearest mountain was a volcano and he couldn't wait to explore it. The girl said that she was going to go into the forest to find new birds and animals. She would also like to explore the local ecosystem and, if she was lucky, meet some interesting monsters. The young man noticed that some of the campers had their own atmosphere. He laughed and continued eating the food on the stick. The young man, interested, approached the girl and asked what she was eating. He admitted that he became terribly interested. The girl with her mouth full calmly replied that she was eating the stomach, holding the prepared piece on a stick. The boy asked her in surprise if she really ate the stomach and wondered if she was disgusted. The girl confidently declared that she was not disgusted at all. The stomach was quite tasty. Then, sitting on a log by the fire, she thought that the others did not yet understand the taste of such dishes. The researcher said that if someone doesn't like it, they shouldn't watch it because it's normal for her. She explained that tasting is part of the monster research, and besides, they all get tested for poison first. The girl asked Theo if he was sure he didn't want to try it since it was research. The creature standing next to him exclaimed that it wanted to try it. The noise spread across the mountainous terrain. It was quiet near the houses standing among the mountains. The young man told the little dragon that it had been fun, and the creature agreed. He then told the dragon that he would sleep in another house tonight and apologized. The girl bid Begoliev good night. The young man said that they would see each other tomorrow, to which the creature, Begoliev, made a questioning sound. Continuing to walk, the creature gently nudged the young man, questioningly saying its name. The creature, called Begoliev, approached Theodore with an offer to sleep with him. Theodore looked at the creature in surprise. Theodore remembered the researcher telling him that Begoliev was still a child and that this should not be forgotten. He also remembered his childhood, where he, a little boy, cried and called for his mom and dad. Theodore imagined little Begoliev looking at the night sky above the water's surface and thinking that it looked like he had no one there either. The young man stroked the dragon and asked Begoliev if he had done a good job, and then said that he would sleep with him. Begoliev threw the boy onto his back. Theodore exclaimed joyfully while the dragon let out a joyful cry. Theodore asked Begoliev to wait, saying that there was something else he wanted to do. However, Begoliev had already fallen asleep, which surprised Theodore. Begoliev was fast asleep, making cute snoring sounds, and Theodore looked at him. Theodore stroked the sleeping Begoliev, noticing that the poor fellow was tired. Theodore, closing his eyes, decided that he would lie down too, admitting that he too was tired. Theodore and Begoliev are sleeping peacefully, curled up after a tiring day. The man thinks that tomorrow will be a new day, heralding new things to do, which means a lot of work awaits them. Against the backdrop of majestic mountains, shrouded in pre-dawn haze, a grasshopper has frozen on a thin blade of grass. The silence of the early morning is broken only by the barely audible chirping of the insect. In the distance, the silhouettes of several houses can be seen, still immersed in a serene sleep. A loud growl suddenly breaks the morning silence as a paw slams down hard on the ground. The startled grasshopper, sensing danger, jumps away from the unexpected intrusion. A girl with ears and a tail appears in the forest, her wild gaze wary, and next to her stands a large wolf with glowing eyes. The girl lets out a low, warning growl, demonstrating her readiness to defend herself from any threat. Their figures stand out clearly against the background of the gloomy trees, creating a picture of primordial strength. Theodore jerks awake, his eyes wide with sudden alarm and surprise. He hears a distant but distinct growl, rudely disturbing the morning calm. Theodore, still not fully awake, sits on the floor, leaning against Begoliev, who continues to sleep peacefully. He looks thoughtfully towards the window, wondering what mysterious noise could have woken them up so early. Questioning thoughts float through his head as he tries to make sense of the situation. Between two village houses, two dark silhouettes are visible, emitting a threatening growl. The morning silence is finally destroyed by their appearance, foreshadowing danger. The girl and the large wolf accompanying her are near a pile of firewood located between the houses and continue to growl. The wolf is greedily gnawing something, probably the remains of yesterday's meal, not paying attention to the surroundings. Theodore, cautiously peering out of the window, suggests that the noise could be coming from wild animals. He is genuinely surprised that they would dare to come so close to their temporary camp. Theodore is suddenly alarmed by the thought that wild animals may have attacked the people who remained celebrating by the fire. A vivid picture of a carefree group of people gathered around the fire inevitably arises in his mind. Against the backdrop of memories of people having fun the night before, one of whom cheerfully declares that he is also good, Theodore analyzes the reason for the animal's appearance. He comes to the logical conclusion that they were most likely attracted by the remains of food that no one bothered to clean up after the feast. Theodore is determined to deal with the situation immediately so that the camp does not become a permanent feeding ground for wild animals. He understands that this will require leaving the sleeping Begoliev alone for a while. Before leaving, he plans to make at least an improvised blanket for his faithful companion. The young man carefully covers the sleeping Begoliev with a light blanket, trying not to make a single unnecessary sound. He moves smoothly and quietly so as not to disturb his friend's sensitive sleep in any way. Theo exhaled nervously. The man thinks that the most important thing now is to leave as unnoticed as possible and not wake up his faithful companion. He leaves the room extremely carefully, trying not to make noise. Theodore peers around the corner very carefully. He tries to assess the situation outside carefully before taking any active steps. A large animal, very similar in appearance to a dog, enthusiastically rummages through a pile of food scraps. Theodore wonders doubtfully whether it is just an ordinary stray dog attracted by the smell of food. However, the appearance and behavior of the animal arouse some vague suspicions in him. Theodore suddenly notices that the animal's fur is emitting a faint glow, indicating that it is emitting mana. This observation immediately makes him realize that this is no ordinary dog, but something far more dangerous. A stunned Theodore is confronted by a pack of wolves, one of which stands out for its large size, its fur glowing faintly in the morning light. He instantly realizes that these are magwolves, dangerous magical creatures known for their strength and ferocity. Magwolves are described as extremely formidable opponents, far superior in strength and intelligence to normal wolves. They are most dangerous when they form large packs and launch coordinated attacks. Theodore thought about how adult magwolves could be up to 3 meters tall, and although he couldn't see exactly, he thought he saw another wolf behind the girl. He wondered why she was with him, since wolves were usually quite fond of humans, and their prey was often children. In any case, he decided that he needed to find out now. The young man approached them, offering to talk a little. The boy apologized for interrupting their meal and tried to assure them that he was not their enemy. The wolf and the girl were surprised by his appearance. They suddenly ran away with a growl. He thought that they wouldn't leave him so easily. The young man ordered them to stand still, regretfully thinking that he had not intended to use taming on them. One wolf turned around sharply, while the other, who looked like a wolf girl, quickly walked away. Theodore exclaimed in surprise as he watched the swift escape. The wolf girl growled from her hiding place, while Theodore was puzzled that his spell had not worked, as the skill always worked on everyone he used it on. The remaining wolf wondered why his companion had run away. The young man suggested that perhaps she was just a special species. The young man said, "Okay, let it be at least like this." The wolf made a pleading sound. The man dropped to one knee and called the wolf to come to him. The young man used taming, assuring the wolf that he was not his enemy. The wolf, in turn, curiously asked what they were doing there. Theodore exclaimed that now everything was clear to him. The wolf explained that they had followed the smell because they were very hungry. The man thought that if he looked closely, the wolf's bones were very visible, and he was scared to imagine what state the girl was in. He felt genuinely sorry for both of them. Theodore said sadly that it was terrible and wondered what had happened to them. The wolf quietly confirmed his unspoken fears. He then asked where the rest of the pack was, or if they were the only ones left. The wolf sadly replied that it was a bear and added that the bear had killed everyone. The young man was shocked by this news. The wolf continued his story, saying that they had run as far as they could. However, the bear found them and dealt mercilessly with everyone. He added bitterly that it had killed all his relatives, leaving only him alive. Theodore asked again with horror and disbelief if it really was a bear. Theodore realized that a normal bear would not be able to deal with a whole pack of magwolves, which meant that it was a demonic bear. This creature is depicted as a huge, powerful beast with glowing eyes and sharp claws. The demon bear is described as a very cruel and bloodthirsty creature, an unusually strong opponent for magwolves. It does not have any problems to deal with a pack of magwolves. It easily defeats one of them. The wolf said that there was one more left, and Theodore asked if he meant the girl who had just run away. The wolf, looking at the young man, confirmed that he was talking about her. The wolf confirmed that the girl was his own kind, adding that she was still very young and not a good hunter. His words were filled with concern for her fate. This explained why he was so desperate to protect her. The wolf apologized and said they were leaving, thanked her for the treat, and firmly stated that he would protect her. Theodore listened carefully, considering the situation. The wolf's determination was obvious. Theodore said that's how it was. His gaze was thoughtful. The young man, smiling, invited the wolf to join them. The wolf looked at him in surprise. This offer was unexpected. The wolf asked in amazement if they were really being asked to join. His reaction clearly showed how surprised he was by this turn of events. The idea of joining forces with humans seemed incredible to him. Theodore explained that his conscience did not allow him to abandon the little child and her companions to their fate. He stood looking at the wolf, and his words were full of determination. This decision was dictated by his compassion and sense of responsibility. He remembered his comrades who looked friendly and helpful. They stood together, showing solidarity and support. Theodore smiled and told the wolf that he was ready to feed them and they would not have to worry about shelter. He added that, besides, the wolf was protecting her, and that was worthy of respect. His offer was sincere and generous. The young man offered to make a deal. He would give them shelter and food in exchange for a little help. It was a mutually beneficial offer. He waited for the wolf's answer. Theodore asked the wolf if he agreed to his proposal. The wolf looked at him silently, considering what he had heard. Tension hung in the air. Theodore exclaimed happily that this was great when the wolf responded with his consent. The wolf sat in front of him, his decision made. It was an important moment for both of them. Theodore noted the wolf's white fur and said that they should first give him a name, suggesting Shiro, since he was white. The wolf thought the name seemed strange to him. However, despite his doubts, he was willing to accept it. The wolf, after thinking for a moment, agreed, saying that the name was good, and lay down at Theodore's feet. The young man looked at him approvingly. This meant the beginning of their cooperation. The wolf lay quietly, his gaze was peaceful. He said that if this was true, then he agreed. Theodore introduced himself by giving his full name, Theodore Durkheim, and said he was now ready to proceed. He extended his hand toward the wolf, preparing for the next step. The magical symbol began to glow. The young man declared that by sharing his mana with the wolf, he was giving it the name Shiro, and added that he was becoming, at that moment, the wolf girl let out a deafening roar. This sudden event interrupted the ritual. The girl suddenly struck the armored man who was casting a spell. The man, out of breath, asked in surprise what was happening. He dropped to his knees and thought about why she had hit him and what she was trying to achieve. He continued to wonder about her intentions. The wolf and the girl walked away from the man. The girl covered the wolf with her body and began to growl. The girl pulled one of the wolves away with a loud roar. She looked very dangerous. The man called out to her to stop and asked what was wrong with her. He thought of her white ears and wolf tail. He thought that this was the first time he had seen such a creature, while the girl continued to growl. The man tried to use taming on her, asking her to calm down and assuring her that he would not harm her. But she again rushed at him furiously, and he thought that the taming did not work on her, which meant that she was not just a beast. The man assumed that she was a half-human or a human from another land, and asked if this was the first time she had seen someone like herself. The half-human continued to be angry. The girl made a surprised sound, looking from the white wolf to the man. The girl hugged the wolf, and they talked about something worriedly. The man turned to the white wolf, calling him Shiro, and asked if he was trying to convince her. The girl looked at him doubtfully, continuing to growl quietly. The man thought that she needed to be calmed down first and assured her that everything was fine and he would not harm her, but also noted to himself that her anger made this useless. He asked Shiro if this girl was really their relative. Shiro replied that the girl was adopted. A memory flashed through Shiro's mind of how they had found her as a baby, and from then on, she had become part of their pack. The man, a little surprised, thought that if that was the case, it would be difficult for him to find a common language with her. The man addressed the wary girl, beginning his speech with an intriguing note. He noted that her natural caution certainly deserved praise, emphasizing her cautious nature. He sternly warned her that if she dared to appear in these parts again, she should not expect an easy exit. These words sounded like an unambiguous warning about the possible consequences of her next visit. He told her that they had something special in store for her, which could mean anything. The news made her instinctively even more wary of what was coming next. The man reached into his magic bag. With obvious pleasure, he pulled out and showed off a delicious freshly cooked steak from a local wild boar. The man proudly added that the meat not only looked delicious but was still warm, making it especially appealing. She was obviously charmed by the offered treat, and her previous wariness seemed to evaporate for a moment. The man, maintaining a good-natured smile, carefully handed the plate with the steak to the girl, encouraging her with his whole appearance to accept the gift. He confidently assured her that the treat had such a delicious taste that she would definitely want to taste it again and again. He carefully placed the plate with the flavorful steak on the ground, right in front of the squatting wolf girl. In a soft, encouraging tone, the man invited her not to be shy and boldly try the meat he had prepared. His gesture was full of friendliness and hospitality, clearly aimed at finally dispelling her remaining fears. The wolf girl showed some hesitation at first, studying the unexpected treat with suspicion and attention. Then her gaze quickly darted to the side, as if looking for a catch. But the telltale rumble in her stomach clearly revealed her intense hunger. Suddenly, the wolf rushed towards the plate, taking a piece of steak in his teeth. The man watched with undisguised surprise as the wolf ran past with lightning speed. The white wolf let go of the piece, looking at the girl. Her eyes were shining with happiness at the sight of such a meal. This action made her smile and decide. While the wolf girl was enthusiastically wolfing down her portion, accompanied by impatient exclamations, the man calmly informed her that there was still enough food. He briefly wondered if his companion Shira was trying to deliberately whet the girl's appetite even more. A desperate growl filled the air, mixed with the man's cry, begging the girl not to touch his hand in the heat of her hungry excitement. In the end, a stack of perfectly empty plates and a relieved sigh from the man eloquently testified to the end of this wild feast. He noted with satisfaction that they had undoubtedly eaten their fill, and his treat had come in very handy. The man, still a little puzzled by her incredible ability to eat, politely asked if she wanted anything else, wondering to himself how much she could fit. The girl, now clearly full and satisfied, gratefully declined the second helping, saying that she had had enough. Hearing her clear answer, the man was surprised at first. Then, with undisguised amazement in his voice, he asked the girl directly if she had really understood his every word all this time. She, in turn, calmly confirmed his guess with a short yes, which finally plunged him into a state of deep amazement. The man openly expressed his surprise, noting that her ability to understand both wolf language and their human speech was truly astounding. He added that it was so unusual that it even seemed a little strange, emphasizing the uniqueness of her gift. The girl sat opposite him, her head slightly bowed and with a questioning expression on her face, as if not fully understanding the reason for his violent reaction. He presented the figure of a goddess holding a book, symbolizing language as a sacred gift sent from above. Language is an integral part of human existence and culture, the basis of their self-awareness. It was also argued that for humans, communication through words is a natural and unchangeable property of their nature, inherent from birth. The man, deeply impressed by this revelation and the girl's abilities, wondered in his mind how many more incredible and amazing things this continent held. Then he sincerely thanked the goddess, admitting with a little irony that this was perhaps the first time he addressed her with real gratitude. The girl explained to the man the reason for her initial aggression, stating directly that she wanted to harm him. She specified that she perceived his actions towards her wolf companion as something bad, which caused her defensive reaction. A sudden realization crossed the man's face as he finally realized the true reason for her attack, accompanied by a surprised exclamation. His memory flashed back to the moment he tried to cast some spell on the white wolf, and he realized that this was what had provoked the girl. The man, turning to the girl, tried to calm her down, assuring her that he had no bad intentions towards her companion. He explained that his only goal was to try to make some kind of agreement or treaty with the wolf, without meaning anything bad. The man, squatting in front of the girl, explained that his special ability, taming, allowed him to communicate with animals, and he only wanted her wolf companion to join him. Then, with a friendly smile, he turned to the girl herself, inquiring about her decision and offering her to join their company as well. Hearing the man's proposal, the wolf girl's eyes lit up with delight, and she exclaimed with genuine enthusiasm that she really wanted it. The man, seeing her reaction, thought that in this case she would be able to enjoy good food every day, which was certainly a weighty argument. The girl confessed that she was very tired of constantly wandering from place to place and dreamed of a warm, safe place to sleep. She also added with feeling that she was very hungry, and her imagination immediately drew delicious pictures of a hearty meal, while the white wolf barked in agreement. The man, noticing the wolf's reaction, curiously asked what he meant, as if waiting for his opinion. The white wolf barked again, attracting the man's attention, who asked again what was the matter. The girl looked at the man carefully, her gaze expressing expectation and some hope. The white wolf once again confirmed his consent with a short and confident bark, after which the girl, looking at the man, quietly said that she agreed. The man, seeing that his offer was accepted, began to speak with a slight hesitation, while the girl and her two faithful wolves were already heading after him. The wolf girl, joyfully embracing her white companion with a beaming smile, declared that the bargain had been made, and the wolf confirmed that they both agreed. The man, looking at them with satisfaction, replied that it was good, and cordially welcomed them to his expedition. The main character greeted his new acquaintances with a smile, the girl and her dog companion calling them new friends. The girl with a serious face asked if she could continue the taming process. The hero admitted in surprise that he had completely forgotten about it. The girl curiously asked what a name was, hearing that it was part of the contract ritual. The hero explained that it required naming the creature, formulating the conditions, and casting a spell. The girl reacted with delight when the hero suggested naming her companion Shiro. She enthusiastically repeated the name and turned to the dog, saying that his name was now Shiro. The girl hugged the dog tenderly, enthusiastically performing the ritual of making a connection. At that moment, a bright flash of light emanated from her. The hero looked at what was happening in surprise, and the girl, turning to him, did not understand what exactly surprised him so much. The hero noted in confusion that for a moment he felt as if his magical energy had left his body and wondered what that just was. He tried to concentrate in thought, deciding to use his assessment skill to better understand the situation. As a result of using the skill, he realized that a magical connection had formed between the girl and her pet, which amazed him. The girl asked with concern if everything was okay, noticing his reaction, and the hero hastened to assure that everything was fine. The main character said with a smile that everything was fine. He noted that, judging by what he saw, the girl was able to tame Shiro. The young man admitted that he did not know how to explain it and offered a short explanation. When taming, a person shares mana with an animal, and then a connection is established between them. He added that thanks to this, the girl became even closer to Shiro and asked if it became clearer to her. He thought that he might have made a grave mistake as he watched the girl rejoice in joy along with Shiro. He was surprised at how she was able to use the taming skill without casting a spell, and admitted that he wouldn't have believed it if he hadn't seen it with his own eyes. The young man asked the girl about her name and then offered to give it to her if she didn't mind. She wondered in surprise whether she really had a name. She hesitantly said that, for example, her name could be Fio. The young man said with a kind smile that the name suited her, and then added that it belonged to a tamer from fairy tales. The girl, beaming with joy, loudly declared that she was Fio. The protagonist noted to himself that this continent never ceased to amaze him again and again. He watched with interest what was happening, realizing how unusual and diverse the world around him was. Every day revealed something new to him, full of unexpected encounters and events. He thought that he would never have believed that such different creatures could exist in the world, united by strong bonds. Looking at the girl and the beast, he felt how a real connection had been established between them. It reminded him of fairy tales, where such miracles are possible. As the day drew to a close, the protagonist decided it was time to give the others some rest. He offered to take them to their overnight stop so they could recuperate. His voice was calm, inspiring confidence and trust. The girl looked at him with slight uncertainty, not knowing whether to follow him. He, noticing her doubt, extended his hand and smiled softly. The hero assured her that everything was fine and asked her to simply trust him. Meanwhile, he still felt a slight tension due to recent events. The protagonist noted to himself that he was still worried about one important detail that he could not ignore. The thought did not leave him, despite his outward confidence. He remembered the bear that had attacked the girl earlier and felt the need to be on guard. If this creature appeared near the camp, the situation could become dangerous. The hero figured that in that case he would have to intervene and protect everyone. Having collected his thoughts, he clenched his fist and nodded affirmatively to himself. He firmly decided that nothing would disturb his desire for a calm and measured life. Even if difficulties arose, he would be ready to overcome them. Theo, through his sleep with slight bewilderment and confusion, hears that someone is calling him so persistently, and in the end he opens his eyes and asks with misunderstanding what happened. Lying on the floor, the boy looked at Bajilioff with surprise, bewilderment, and slight anxiety, who at that time was calling his master and showing his tongue. Bajilioff, with excitement and some fear in his eyes, says that there is someone else in the room, and he does not know them. Theo rises up a little confused, trying to keep his balance, holding his head, and asks him again who could be there. Suddenly, the boy came to his senses, seeing the girl, and asks Bajilioff if he is talking about the child and the wolf who strangely appeared in their lives. The dragon looks at the girl and his master with genuine surprise. Theo confidently says that they are now their comrades, and the boy pats the wolf on the back, saying that it is already morning and time to get up. To which Begeliov worries and tells him to be more careful. Theo, giving himself confidence, says that everything is in perfect order, and tells that yesterday he himself invited them here, and his friend, the girl, wakes up from the conversation and opens her bright eyes. Begeliov looks at the girl carefully, and their eyes meet, freezing and looking at each other. Suddenly, the wolf and Theo, sensing a sudden danger, begin to snap at Begeliov, to which the guy only turns away, holding his forehead, because it becomes clear to him that the girls need more time to adapt to the new circumstances. Theo, finding a solution, sat them in a circle and told them that they were now all comrades to each other. Begeliov, rejoicing, asked again what he had heard. The guy, in turn, smiled and confirmed that they were now their comrades. He introduced the girl and the wolf, saying that their names were Phaon and Shiro, to which the boys looked at their new interlocutors with excitement and curiosity. Theo, with sincerity in his voice, introduces the girl and the wolf to Begeliov, saying that he may be big, but he is actually very kind and reliable, and the guy hopes that they will find a common language and get along. Theo noticed that Begeliov had turned his head to the side, and the man admitted that he had called them here at night and, with slight surprise, asked if he was really offended that he had left him. Theo, realizing what was happening and enjoying her new acquaintances, widens her big eyes in surprise and hesitantly asks Begeliov's name again. She slowly and carefully approaches him, sniffing like a wolf. She approaches Begeliov and, closing her eyes, gently touches him with her nose, to which Theo notes that the wolf also greets Begeliov. The guy says that he is glad to meet them, while the girl continues to study this creature, which is large for her. The man approaches the window, looking out with interest, and the guy reflects that they are still afraid of him, but he hopes that they will be able to get along soon. Suddenly, the boy hears strange sounds coming from Begeliov. Theo turns around sharply and asks what happened. He sees Shiro sniffing Begeliov from all sides with concentrated curiosity. The guy, remembering something important, begins to tell that the wolf always does this when meeting new people, to which Begeliov, closing his eyes, patiently moans in response, demonstrating his calmness and understanding. The guys went outside and were met by Victor, who said that breakfast of food from this continent was ready and sent them to eat quickly. The guys, with smiles on their faces, sit down at tables together with other people from the expedition, and the guy notes that it looks pretty good, and everyone thanks for the food, wishing everyone a bon appetit. Theo notes that all the food on the table has been carefully assessed for poisons. The girl admits that the food of this continent is actually very tasty, to which the guy notes that it would be even better if they had normal kitchen utensils. Suddenly, during breakfast, Victor asks Theo who is this girl next to him. The guy with a kind smile replies that this night she became their new comrade in an eccentric expedition, as at this time the girl and the wolf happily eat right from the guy's lap. Victor asks the man curiously what he thinks he already knows about this, to which Theo denies and, laughing, claims that he must have had a wild night. Victor, thinking, shows curiosity and asks his permission to find out a few details. He wonders and asks if Theo is a human, to which the guy, without hesitation, firmly confirms. The guy says with a smile and slight bewilderment that the girl has ears and a tail, but she is still a human being, because she has the blessing of the goddess of language, because she can speak, and this is certainly delightful. Theo, enthusiastically continuing his thought, says that the girl is also a tamer, which adds an interesting touch to her personality. The guy, proudly telling about her pet, says that it is a wolf named Shiro who, it would seem, is a true friend of the girl. The man, with a clever glint in his eye, explains that she can use taming without casting a spell, which is truly impressive, and he says that he values her skill above his own. The guy, after thinking for a bit, says that even though he invited them here, he is not sure if everything will go well, and this makes his voice a little more serious. To which Victor, in a confident tone, tells him not to worry, and all the people from the expedition confirm his words. The man adds that he fought alongside the heroes, and that certainly says something, and he has better instincts than they do. So he says that they really trust him, to which Theo, slightly embarrassed, holds the back of his head and thanks them for their support. The guy says that he would like to introduce them properly. He turns to Theo and Shiro, as if he wants everyone to know more about them. But suddenly his gaze stops on Kelly, who is holding a pen with a worried and attentive expression on her face and carefully writing something down in her notebook. clearly studying the guys, and the girl looks at her nervously, feeling a little uncomfortable. The girl finally introduces herself, frankly saying that her name is Kelly, and adds that if she needs any help, they should definitely call her, to which Theo and Shiro begin to shake from the girl's terrifying gaze, which seems unbearable to them. The girl's friend, involuntarily feeling the seriousness of the situation, begins to cry, saying that she is scaring her, and at this time the wolf begins to protect her, demonstrating his devotion. To which Kelly, perplexed, does not understand what happened. Theo, seeing this complicated situation, approaches the girl and, trying to be as calm as possible, tells her to calm down, to which Kelly replies with slight displeasure that she is just trying to make friends with them, and the girl confirms that she is scaring them. Suddenly, Kelly, as if realizing something important, turns and addresses Theo, saying that even though he tells her to calm down, he needs to look at Shiro. She, with interest, claims that she has never seen wolves like that before. The guy is surprised by what he heard and, with a slight hint of bewilderment, asks the girl if this isn't an ordinary magwolf. Kelly confirms with certainty, but quickly adds that this is not entirely true. She approaches the wolf, tenderly beginning to stroke him behind the ears, examining his fur like an explorer. The girl is surprised to see that Shiro's fur is completely white, and therefore assumes that he is most likely a white magwolf. Kelly cautiously says that he is larger than other individuals, so he confidently states that Shiro is simply a variety of magwolf from this continent, and this already sounds really intriguing. The guy, shocked, is surprised, asking in a questioning tone, asking if their pack was really completely destroyed by a demonic bear, to which the guy replies that they told him so, and it's simply shocking. Kelly asks again if their pack was completely destroyed by the demonic bear, to which the guy replies that they told him so. The girl, thinking, gloomily notes that if one bear was able to destroy the entire pack, then this means that his power is very great, and she understands that these are questions concerning their safety. Suddenly, Victor appears, saying that they told him about it just in time. The girl, frightened, asks how long he has been there, as if suddenly feeling uncomfortable. The man confidently says that they will discuss this later because right now, the most important thing for them is to build the camp, which sounds quite reasonable. Victor, looking at Theo working and other workers arranging their daily routine, says that bad weather is not scary for them because it is also good to sleep, and this adds confidence in their actions. He goes on to say that they need more food and water, but most importantly, they need protection, and so they have set these 3 important points for themselves to think about as seriously as possible. The men, having gathered together, discussed that they should first start with the fields, and then, as a correct strategy, they should build a well. Suddenly, Victor, closing his eyes with a serious expression on his face, says that they need the 3rd point even more than the others, and that is protection, which sounds very sensible, but with a slight hint of alarm. The man is thinking that if a bear attacks them, they will be in trouble, when suddenly Theo, with a subdued mood, raises his hand, about to say something. He stops Victor and, with a slightly awkward apology, states that there is one more point that is more important than his 3 points, and this attracts the attention of everyone around. The man, surprised by the guy's words, and indignantly says that what could be more important than protecting the camp. He insistently asks the guy to tell him what he means. The guy shouts out with confidence and determination that it is a bath, and this causes shock in everyone who listens. Kelly and Victor look at the guy with surprise and slight misunderstanding, not believing their ears. The man, still perplexed, asks again that this is really a bathtub, to which Theo, with ease, confidently agrees, looking at Theo and Shiro, who do not know how to react. He enthusiastically says that the boys are both very dirty, and Shiro looks like he is not a white wolf mage, but he is sure that he has very beautiful fur, and it sounds so cute. He pets the wolf, and the boys sitting at breakfast are touched by him, finding it funny and touching. Theo insists that they need to get rid of any parasites living on them as soon as possible before they themselves become pot-bellied. He claims that swimming in the river is not an option because it is very cold, which makes this situation even more important. The guy, with a slight sigh, says that, in short, he won't do anything until these 2 are clean, and that sounds like a fair decision. To which Victor, with understanding, replies that he understands because he noticed that Theo is actually very caring. Theo asks what then? Can he make the bath first, or will he sit and do nothing? He says that to collect materials he would like to go exploring the surrounding area. Victor is surprised and asks how many people he wants to take with him, to which Theo replies that it will be enough for him to take this little one, because she knows the area better than him. Theo is surprised by what she heard. Theo turns to Victor, telling him that there is no need to worry about his safety. He turns his head, looking at Begalioff. The guy says that Bejleaf is a dragon, and he will protect him, and no demonic bear will come near the dragon. Bejleaf smiles at the words of the owner. Theo says that Victor and his brilliant leadership will cope with the rest of the tasks perfectly well without him. The man looks at him disapprovingly. Theo stands silently and, clearly worried about something, lowers her gaze. Victor allows the boy to go to the area and leaves the bathroom issue to him as long as he returns alive. Theo tells Victor to tell him if he needs any materials. A guy is sitting on the ground, collecting things in a bag. He says that he has collected almost everything and all that remains is to put them in a magic bag. When suddenly a girl approaches him, worried about something. Theo asks her what happened, to which she presses her palms to herself and with fear on her face says that it is very dangerous because there is a bear in the forest. She is worried that Theo might die. The boy looks at the girl with shaking hands, wondering what happened. Suddenly, he remembered that Theo's pack had died at the hands of a magical bear. Begalioff approaches Theo and remembers that he said that they were now their comrades. He walks around the guy and approaches the girl. Bejleaf happily claims that everything will be fine because he will protect them. Bejleaf smiles widely and asks her to trust him. Theo looks at what is happening with surprise and joy. Theo believes him and looks back with a timid smile. She hugs Begalioff, trusting him completely, to which he smiles warmly back at her. Theo closes the bag and says that this is all for now. He suggests that the boys go on their way, to which the girl asks Theo to stop. Shiro asks what a bath is. The girl picks up and asks about it too. But then the boy realizes that they don't know because they grew up in the forest. The guy tries to explain clumsily that it is a container for washing the body. But the guys still don't understand what he is talking about. Theo says that it is warm and nice in this container. You can relax and rest. Theo and Shiro listen to the guy attentively. The boys imagined a wonderful place to relax, and their eyes lit up. They asked if it was really possible to relax, rest, and sleep there. The girl is eager and asks him to start the journey already, to which the wolf already begins to pull Theo by the belt. To which the guy tells them to wait. He says that first it needs to be made and they will help him with that. The man says that they need a lot of big stone. The guys looked at him in surprise. Theo says that it's time for them to go, but first they need to find the necessary materials. Suddenly, Kelly says that she will go with them too. Bejleaf, after thinking for a moment, remembers that the expedition to the New World made some pretty good enemies in just one day, but it still lacks a lot of things. So their next goal will be to build a bath, a dream that now seems quite real. He reflects that a bath requires a lot of water, so they started digging a well, which requires a lot of effort and resources. Begalioff thinks to himself what exactly is needed for the well, and comes to the conclusion that it will require a very large amount of stone. He tells his companions that this is why they went looking for stones, because they can't do without them. Full of energy, he jumps into the water, and Theo calls him back with displeasure, while Kelly quickly and diligently writes something with a pen in her notebook, not looking up from her thoughts. The guy, looking at Begalioff, says that they didn't come here just to have fun. But Begalioff seems to know no bounds to fun and happily splashes in the water, completely oblivious to it. Suddenly, Theo and Shiro are terrified. They look ahead with anxiety and their eyes are full of worry. Theo, noticing this, is perplexed, not understanding what happened and what could have scared them. The girl turns to the boy with concern and, pointing her finger at Begalioff, asks excitedly if everything will be okay with him. Theo's reaction makes Theo ask if they are afraid of water, to which the girl, hugging the wolf tightly, says that they are just a little afraid, and this fear seems quite natural. Theo starts to tell that when it rained, they got very wet, and at that moment they were cold, lonely, and also very hungry. Moreover, they were really scared, and there is some truth in this. Shiro, adding to the story, says that it was when they were attacked, and there is a sense of regret in his voice. To which Theo, with understanding and sympathy, looks at them and tries to calm the boys, assuring them that Begalioff originally lived in water, so everything will be fine with him. The girl anxiously asks again if this is true, Theo, with a kind smile, motions for her to come closer. He waves his arms, throwing a large towel over her, like a comforting friend who wants her to feel safe. The guy, looking at the girl, says that he made a towel for her so that she could get less wet and dry herself if necessary. He says that thanks to this they no longer have to be afraid of water, which sounds encouraging. Theo, believing in him, agrees, happily says that she understands everything and feels more confident. Theo, looking at the girl who is on the shore, thinks about whether it is possible to somehow quickly get rid of their own fears that sometimes prevent them from enjoying the moment. Suddenly, Kelly calls the guy, and he replies that since she is happy, it means she has already found something, and this intrigues him. The girl replies that she was simply interested in the way Bigeliov swims, and there is admiration in her voice. Kelly, carefully examining the surrounding area, notices and says that it seems to her that there are no suitable stones for them here. To which the guy, full of agreement, nods in bewilderment. Theo thought that he might find large rocks on the river bottom, but unfortunately he only finds one small piece of rubble, which leaves him a little disappointed. He muses that if they follow the river, they might find something bigger that will give them the resources they need. Theo calls out to Bigoliath that it's time to go, to which Bigoliath, not wanting to give up the current joys, replies that he thinks they can stay here longer. The boys, full of energy and enthusiasm, go forward along the forest path while Theo is happily rejoicing and riding on Bigeliath, who happily carries her on his back. Theo, looking at this picture, notices that they are all in a very good mood, and this cannot but please. Kelly also notices this, smilingly says that the kids get along well, and watches their interaction. She asks if this is because of the wolf's nature, to which the guy, with a serious look, replies the wolves are a pack animal, and they have a leader, so within their pack they all get along very well. Kelly, her eyes bright, asks if that's why he gives orders, and wonders if he wants to be the leader. The guy, remembering what she said, is stunned, and thoughtfully asks what she's hinting at. It flashes through his mind that Theo's pack was wiped out by a bear about half a month ago, and all this time they had to survive together, which creates a certain heaviness in his soul. He reflects on the fact that, knowing this, he involuntarily wants to make the girl happy and give her the confidence that she dreams of. However, at the same time, he understands that he cannot become a leader because he is only a laborer. His task is to support people and take care of them. The names of 3 heroes come to mind, and he realizes that he is not even on par with them. Theo clenches his fist, determined, and confidently states that he can do it, because he will try his best not to let his friends down. Suddenly, at that moment, he hears someone calling his name from behind him. It interrupts his thoughts and brings him back to reality. Bigeliath, with a slightly guilty but confident expression on his face, tells the guy that he can do his bodily business here, which makes Theo dumbfounded by what he heard, not expecting such a revelation. Theo, with a kind smile, says that while no one is around, he should do it, and they will all watch carefully. To which the guy asked in bewilderment why they wanted him to do it here, and there was a slight panic in his voice. Kelly, writing something down in her notebook, looks up and asks if he still hasn't figured it out. She explains that they all love him and consider him a leader, and they are new to everyone here, thus creating their own special group. At this, the guy starts cursing and confidently says that he will not mark his territory, so to speak. Suddenly, Theo screams loudly. He falls to the ground and complains that he is tired, pointing out that it has become unbearably long and difficult for everyone to walk. Kelly, with slight displeasure, replies that there was no need to scream like that, and the guy, disagreeing, replies whose fault it was, in her opinion. Theo looks up at the waterfall and says with relief that it looks like they found the right rocks they need after all. Theo enthusiastically asks the boy if they need big rocks, and he turns to her and replies that he would be glad if they helped. The girl points to a stone that is the same height as her and asks if it will fit, to which the man agrees, but adds that, unfortunately, they will not be able to carry it to the place. He goes on to say that although they have a magical bag in which they store all their various things, they can't fit a large object in there, and the guy confidently claims that they can only fit into the bag what will fit in their mouths, which sounds pretty comical. The boys, looking at each other in surprise and not understanding, look at him, and he shows the size with his palm, clarifying that this is the size of the stones they need. The girl replies that they understand, but the guy says that it is not as easy as he thought. At this time, Kelly, with renewed strength, brings a stone and tells him to try it. Maybe it will fit. Theo, with a slight laugh, replies that he can't make the kids work, so now they think they're just playing. To which Kelly points out that he's overly caring and considerate. The guy, a little embarrassed, says that it is difficult for him to explain when suddenly they hear something behind them and everyone turns towards the sound. They hear Begaliov humorously asking if such a stone would suit them, to which the guy, not understanding, asks in bewilderment what it is. Begaliov tells him to look at it with a smile, and at that moment the boy notices a huge boulder right in front of him. He apologizes to Begaliov, believing that they won't be able to take him because he's so huge. But before he can finish speaking, his attention is drawn to something ahead. He sees Begaliov holding a huge boulder on his head with his horns, and Theo is amazed by what he sees, his mouth hanging open in surprise. Meanwhile, the guys standing in the camp are discussing something. Victor, with a serious face, says that he is worried about the surrounding area and wonders why they have not given anyone the task to explore it. He claims that they really need to deal with this issue. But before they could finish speaking, everyone turned away from something strange, looking ahead. They realize that something is approaching them, and a huge shadow falls over them as they look ahead, silent with curiosity and fear. Suddenly they notice a huge rock behind the trees moving straight towards them. The boys are frightened by what they see, asking in fear if there really are such stones on this continent. Theo looks out from behind the rock and says that he did not want to scare anyone, but his appearance causes shock in everyone gathered. The men are surprised to see the guy. Victor admits that he is very surprised and asks how they even dragged such a huge thing here, examining the rock with bewilderment. Theo, pointing proudly at Begaliov, says that he was the one who did it and is rewarded with admiring glances. Kelly says that Begaliov is so strong that he was able to lift him and bring him here, while musing that his horns probably contain a huge amount of mana because she has no other explanation. Kelly admits that Begaliov dragged him here the whole way and begins to claim that his strength surpasses that of ordinary earth dragons. The girl adds that she would not like to see him as our enemy, to which the guy agrees, because it is better to have him as an ally. At this time, the girls from the camp praise Begaliov, admiring his strength and kindness, when suddenly Theo, full of joy and energy, runs up to Theo. The girl, with curiosity in her eyes, asks what they will be able to build now because she wants to know what it is as soon as possible. The guy, with a smile, agrees and says that it is all thanks to them, their efforts and work. Theo gently strokes her head. Victor, turning to the guy, says that now he will have to work hard, because they need a huge amount of water, and his words suddenly surprise the guy. Suddenly, Theo, hearing Victor's words, became frightened by the large amount of water. The girl got scared and quickly got ready, rushed away, clinging to her faithful wolf. The guy, without wasting time, grabbed them, calmly telling them to calm down. The girl, hugging the wolf, says that water is very scary, and this sincere confession sounds a little touching. Theo, trying to calm them down, says that they got it all wrong, and he has a plan. The man turns to the girl, taking a step closer, and says that gradually she will learn many different things from them. For example, that she has learned to use a fork and knife, which causes her a little delight. He explains that the more she knows, the less she will be afraid of the new and unknown. The girl, with genuine surprise, asks if this is true. Theo, with a kind smile, turns away and, moving forward, leaves, telling her to just look at him and not be afraid. The boy thinks that to build a well, they need a huge hole, a lot of stones, and they will have to dig until they find water, which is so important for their lives. Theo places his palm on the ground and uses magic, causing the ground to begin to crumble and dig down, causing some element of surprise in everyone around. The boy confidently says that he will use magic and compress the earth and then chop the stones into small pieces. The girl, with genuine surprise, looks at the man's actions, her eyes full of admiration and faith. Theo, lost in thought, reflects that he will be laying down stones as the land disappears, and may have to use the last of the metal from their components. The girl is still in a state of surprise and admiration. She closely watches her friend's actions. At this time, Victor, Theo, and Theo are looking at the well, and the girl happily asks if this is really a well. She, full of enthusiasm, joyfully runs to the well and almost falls inside, wondering what's there. But Theo, reacting in time, manages to grab her, not letting her fall. He scolds her and says that she should never do that again. which sounds slightly stern. The guy turns to Victor, trying to assess the situation, and says that it is probably better to always close the well hatch from now on, to which Victor agrees with him, because you never know what else she might do. Kelly, watching all this, asks if there is anything he can't do. The guy replies that he may look like that, but he works like others like him, and it doesn't bother him. The man tells the girl to press the lever. He wants her to try it first. Theo, with full determination, presses the well screen hard. Victor, with a slight dose of disbelief, asks if it is really that easy. The guy replies that he made it specifically so that the child could use it, thus creating space for her participation. He states that the well is almost running, which makes everyone excited. Suddenly, cool water starts pouring out of the tap, and Theo, with a wide smile, looks at the water, no longer afraid. She looks at the water in amazement along with Shiro, who has joined her. The girl confidently claims that the water does not scare her at all, to which the guy, with a slight laugh, replies that she has nothing to fear from such water. The man, inspired by her confidence, says that now he will make her a bath, so that she can wash herself and feel really clean. To this, the girl happily wags her tail and cheerfully says that she really wants to try a bath. The guy, seeing how happy she is, strokes her head with a warm smile, which only adds to her confidence. However, suddenly he unexpectedly falls to the ground and, smiling weakly, says that first he would like to have a snack because he has not eaten since morning. The girl and Begaliov, noticing his condition, worry about him, and everyone's eyes become alarmed. Suddenly Theo and Shiro are frightened by what they see. A terrifying Kelly stands in front of them, stretches out her hand to them, and claims that they are not worried because it will not hurt. A little earlier, the boys are feasting again. Theo eats and notes that all the ingredients on this continent are very tasty and more aromatic. The man agrees and says that he was pleasantly surprised too. The guy says that after being exhausted from using the skills for an hour, when he woke up he saw Begaliov. He looked at Theo with concern and tears in his eyes and asked if he was okay. And at that time there was a huge amount of fish around the guy. The guy admits that he still feels unwell, to which Kelly, reading a book, tells him to stop pretending. The girl says that she was also worried about him, but he is strong and capable, so he cannot be allowed to shirk work. To which the guy laughs and says that he was exposed. The man asks if she should stop and let the boys eat, since the girl hasn't eaten anything yet either. She looks at poor Theo, who wants to eat, and says it's too early. Kelly says that feeding is the most important hour of understanding the nature of other species. She can't let them eat until she's done all the proper markings. Theo tells her to stop and let them eat. She's already scaring them. The guy says that they can eat, but they should do it slowly. They have enough food to last a long time. But suddenly he notices something. He asks Theo why she eats with her hands. The girl looks at him in surprise. She admits that she still finds it difficult to use the devices, but she tries her best. The guy is touched, thinking what a wonderful child she is, always studying so hard. The man says that he will reward her for her hard work. He promises that today he will build what he promised. The girl was happy to hear this. The guy imagines a fancy bathroom and claims that he will build the bathroom today. But suddenly he looks down, sighing. Kelly asks what happened. She wonders if there are any difficulties with the construction. The guy denies it, but says that she guessed right after all. Theo thinks about it and says that the baths are no different from any other building, but he argues that the problem will be getting water in there. The man ponders and says that he wants to make it so that hot water is supplied immediately. He thinks that if he builds a water tank and a heating system, it will take up a lot of space. Kelly asks what if he replaces everything with a magical device. The guy is surprised and asks again what she's talking about. Theo realizes that Victor keeps all these devices, so he needs to ask him. He asks Victor, but before he can finish speaking, Victor doesn't notice him. The guy says that Victor has already left to look for a place for a farm, and Theo, with slight bewilderment, holds his head and says that he still has a lot of work to do. Suddenly the guy comes up with an interesting and rather bold idea and suggests that they go or at least look for it together. He enthusiastically says that he was already in the hero's party, so they should be able to find him quickly, to which Theo smiles nervously and thanks him for the praise, while feeling a little nervous. The man, with some caution, claims that they have no idea where he is, when suddenly, having settled himself on his thoughts, he notices a joyful Theo. They, along with Shiro, her loyal wolf, approach Theo and look at him with shining, hopeful eyes, clearly planning something. The girl sits on her wolf, and he, with a slight snort, says that they left it up to them to find Victor, which surprises the guy, and he notes that they are so cute together, like a real team. The man smiles and notes that Theo riding Shiro is a parody of him riding Bagaliath. The girl, with a serious expression, asks the guy if she can borrow a rope. The guy, without thinking, agrees, but is immediately puzzled with new questions. Why do they need it? But before he could finish speaking, the girl and the wolf had already rushed off in the same direction, along with the guy. Theo is surprised and thinks to himself that it looks like he will have to explain to Theo that people are not as strong as she is, and he hopes that everything will be okay with him. The man finishes preparing the materials and states with relief that finally all the preparations are complete. He understands that the most difficult part remains. He thinks that your bathhouse is very similar to a well, and he only needs to fully imagine its appearance. Theo tried to ask each resident about their preferences, but nothing normal came out of it because everyone had many different requests that were impossible to combine and recreate in reality. The guy realizes that they don't have much space and materials because there is a limit to what they can and can't do. He wonders what they all have in common. Eventually, he realized it would be a big open bath for everyone. He imagines the guys who praised him reacting enthusiastically to his idea, and Theo confidently asserts that he has imagined the bath. All that remains is to imagine the rest. The guy tries to do everything necessary, a place for washing and a water drainage system, and after some time wiping sweat from his face, he says with joy that finally, he is almost finished. The man turns around and realizes that Theo and the others should be back soon, when suddenly he sees the girl's hand calling him. The guy with the severe tachycardia claims that they found Victor. The girl easily and with a wide smile confirms that they really did find him, and the man notes what a big difference in strength there is between them. The guy claims that Victor had a magical device, and Theo, straightening his shoulders, rejoices and asks if it is true. The guy, disheveled with emotion, says that Victor was shocked that he forgot to tell him about it, to which Theo says that it's time to finish the bath. The guy explains that they found the device, but does not understand how to use it. He says it looks very expensive, but he doesn't understand what's so special about it. Theo, outlining the details, explains that this object, for example, can turn into a whole mansion, and the guy's eyes sparkle at these words. The man says that in their case they need heating, so it is full inside and heat is already being created in it. He says that a device of this type can always surprise with something, like a real magical artifact. Theo says that all they have to do is connect a cold water pipe to it and we will get boiling water at the outlet. The guy is surprised and asks if he really had a whole mansion in his hands, to which Theo says with a smile that it would be better if he gave it to him. The guy, holding the magic mechanism in his hands, smiles broadly and says that now it's time to get to work. He activates the magical mechanism, and it flies above his hand, starting to work and emitting a warm light, as if coming to life in his hands. The guy says that the pipe was split into 2 parts and connected to a logic device. He explains that everything is done so that they get both hot and cold water at the output because now all that remains is to hide the structure itself with building materials so that everything looks neat and presentable. After some time, Theo confidently introduces it to everyone and claims that the bathhouse is ready for use. He compliments the man, saying that he is a jack of all trades and watches him smile modestly, to which Theo apologizes and says that without the materials he could not do anything. The guy replies that means that with the material he can do absolutely everything, even more than they could imagine. Suddenly, Theo unexpectedly runs up to the guy, scaring him from surprise. She excitedly says that she wants to try the new bathhouse as soon as possible, to which the guy reassuringly replies that she shouldn't worry, because she will definitely be there very soon. Suddenly, a guy ahead notices Kelly and, calling her name, attracts her attention. The girl turns around and asks with interest what happened. The guy says with a smile that Theo needs to take a bath and watches as her face lights up with joy. The girl, smiling, answers that she understood everything, and Theo adds that he is counting on her. However, the girl, hearing this, suddenly became frightened, as if she had a premonition of something unexpected. The guy says goodbye and leaves them together, saying that he will wait for them to come out. Kelly agrees with his decision. Theo, confused, asks where he is going and turns around looking at the girl with a worried face. Kelly makes a scary face with a terrifying look and says that there is no need to worry about her because it will not hurt. To which the girl and the wolf are even more scared and they exchange worried glances. Theo, worried about them, understands that Theo has a bit of courage, and since Kelly will also be involved in her entertainment, it is better to leave Theo to her, because she will also pick out clothes for her. At this point, Bijliev asks the boy if he has finished his business, to which he agrees and apologizes for keeping him waiting. Theo says that while they wait for Theo and Kelly, he suggests that they try hard, because they are back together and they have the opportunity to work as a team. Kelly, meanwhile, puts a towel on the girl before the bath, and Theo, curiously, asks why they need a towel. To which the girl answers mysteriously that she will find out soon, and her voice sounds very encouraging. Suddenly, Theo and Shiro rushed into the bathhouse with joyful cries. Kelly is worried and anxious. She warns the girl that the bath is hot and she should watch her step so as not to slip. The girl opens the door and, blinking in surprise, looks around. She sees a spacious room with a large hot bath and her eyes fill with delight. Kelly can't help but be surprised and admits that the guy did a great job, and now they have a truly magical place. The girl, looking at the bathtub, beams with happiness. Kelly looks around and notices that the floor is slightly sloped to allow water to run off, and cautiously remarks that the floor is slippery, but at the same time admits that the job is excellent. The girl notices that the bathtub is made of wood, but at the same time it does not cool down for a long time, which makes her curious. Kelly wonders what the secret of such an amazing design is. The girl noticed that the bathtub was also very big. Suddenly she notices that the girl is already running happily into the bathroom. The girl jumps into the bathtub and all the splashes fly straight at Kelly. The girl, soaking wet, notices that you can even swim in this bathtub. Looking at the girl swimming like a dog, he understands that he will have to teach her some manners. Shaking off the water, Kelly asks her why she thought she was afraid of water and wouldn't go in it. The girl notes that Theo feels great, to which the girl replies that they like hot water because they have already bathed like that. Kelly wonders if they've been to the baths before. The girl says they've been to where there's hot water in the ground. She points to the window and the girl looks at her in surprise. Kelly realized that this meant there was a hot spring somewhere nearby. Suddenly, the girl became sad and said that they can't go there now. The girl listens to her in surprise. Theo says that once they all gathered there together, they swam, licked each other, and had fun. The girl starts crying from sadness and says that now they can't go there. Kelly looks at her with regret. Suddenly, Shiro jumps out of the water right on Theo, starting to lick her face to cheer her up. Kelly looked at them with surprise to see Shiro. The girl sees how the girl became cheerful again and began to laugh, holding her faithful wolf next to her. Kelly, watching them, noticed that they were very funny. She decided to herself that she should watch them some more. Theo holds the bed linen and is happy that it is finally dry. The guy is surprised that he can now dry his clothes in just 10 minutes, to which he replies that he complained that by the evening the bed linen would not dry. He says that just a combination of fire and wind, a strong and hot wind, will dry out anything. Theo throws a bedsheet over Begeliov and thanks the man for his help. Suddenly the guy hears some conversations and compliments near the bathhouse. He looks inside along with other people who wonder if it is really Theo. Suddenly the guy notices a girl in a beautiful outfit. She turns around and notices her friend. Theo turns to him, showing him the outfit, and asks how he likes it. The guy admires her and says that this outfit suits her very well. Kelly says the outfit is made from the monsters that live here. She claims she said she had clothes. The man turns around looking at the girl and says he's surprised she has clothes like that. Kelly, proud of herself, asks who he even takes her for. The boy understands that clean shoes and clothes are exactly what the child needs now. He looks at the girl with admiration and says that this is much better. He turns to Theo and, leaning slightly, says that she looks beautiful, to which the girl happily wags her tail and barks in response, thanking him. The boy turns to Kelly and thanks her for her help. The girl, happy with her new clothes, thanks her too. Suddenly the guy stops abruptly, noticing something unusual in front of him. He sees a snow-white and fluffy Shiro sitting on the floor. The wolf, noticing someone's gaze on him, looks at the guy with an intent gaze and barks in response. The man turns to him, surprised that his fur is more silver than white. Kelly pauses and says she was surprised too when he took a bath. She admits she thought he was a subspecies of the local magical wolf. She looks at Shiro and says that she doesn't think so now because she is sure that he is a higher species. Theo looks at what is happening and thinks that in any case, he will always be happy for them. By evening, it was time for the men of the camp to take a bath. Theo, relaxing and breathing in, claims that there's nothing better than a relaxing bath at the end of a working day. The guy understands that now everyone can rest easy. He understands that it was difficult to build it, but he is glad that he finally succeeded. Theo notes that the only thing that worries him is Big Eliev. But he realizes that he is so big that there is no way they can take a bath together. The guy remembers that, according to Kelly, there is a hot spring in the mountains. The guy decides for himself that he will need to find it in order to take Big Eliev there. The guy understands that so many people helped him today, and he is infinitely grateful to them. Theo remembers that when he was a laborer, his work was any activity related to travel, except for fighting. The guy admits that helping each other is still nice. The man raises his head, looking forward. Theo finally understood what friends are. The guy admits that he likes this feeling. The man walks along the path, admitting that the bath was very nice because he doesn't even know how long he spent there. When suddenly Victor calls out to him. The guy was surprised to see Victor in front of him, and at that time the man apologized to him. Victor admits that he forgot that they had such a subject, to which Theo worries and says that everything is fine because besides, he understands that he also has too much work. The man admits that in any case this is not an excuse, but before he can finish speaking, Victor grabs his head and feels a strong, sharp pain in his head. The guy gets worried and asks what happened, to which the man admits that he just has a headache. Theo ponders and wonders if Victor was just overworked today. The boy asks the man what he did today. Victor, thinking, says that first he went to those responsible for agriculture, then he talked to scientists, because it was necessary to calculate the amount of materials and what else they could build from what was needed. Then he distributed the work for the next day. Theo, hearing all this, was surprised and said that he was working too much, to which Victor admits that he thinks that in reality this is very little work, to which the guy stops him and tells him not to take anything else. He admits that Victor really does work too much. The guy admits that the problem is that if Victor is gone, they won't be able to do anything without him. Theo says that this is why he asks him to reduce his responsibilities and workload, to which Victor is surprised by the guy's words. The guy understands that they are all in different groups for the improvement of the camp, and if one of them falls ill, the productivity of the group will be greatly reduced. Theo understands that especially if this person is Victor, to which the man laughs in response because for him it seems funny. Victor admits that it is quite funny for him to hear such words from Theo, but he thanks him and claims that from now on he will be careful. Suddenly Victor, holding his chest, squeezed it even harder, feeling pain inside. The next morning, the boy slowly wakes up, yawning and stretching, and looks around the room, noticing his friends sleeping peacefully. He sees how the boys have settled in comfortably, sleeping on top of each other under the soft morning rays of the sun, and, looking at this, he says to himself that today is such a calm and peaceful morning. He strokes Shiro gently, remembering how yesterday, after dinner, they started playing, and after that everyone was so tired and fell asleep, tired and happy. The guy understands that the boys are so exhausted that they are still sleeping, but, with a smile, he reflects that they are still children, thirsty for adventure and fun. He tells himself that in any case he is really glad that they have become friends and are now together as a real team. When suddenly he notices that the boys are starting to wake up, and with a kind smile, he tells them to wake up quickly and wishes them a good morning. Fio and Begaliov, still sleepy, look at each other and giggle together, as if they had some secret. Theo, seeing this cute sight, can't contain his emotions, covers his face with his hand, allowing himself to have a little fun, and realizes that they look very cute together. But, quickly collecting his thoughts, he decides that he needs to pay attention to more serious matters, and tells them to get up quickly, because it is already time for breakfast. He encourages his friends, telling them to get up quickly, before anyone else comes to wake them. The boy notices that 3 days have passed since they landed on the shore and realizes that another day has come and they need to work hard so that they can move on in their adventures. Suddenly, at that moment, the door in the room swings open with a loud stomping and noise, and, out of breath, Kelly runs in, calling Theo by name. The boys, surprised, turn around and watch with interest the unexpected guest, who seems to be worried about something. The guy, seeing Kelly tired from running, asks with concern why she is in such a hurry. Theo doesn't understand anything yet, apologizes and says that they overslept breakfast with a slight bewilderment on his face. To which the girl, adjusting her hair, says that now is not the time for that. Kelly, with concern in her voice, admits that they have a sick person and catches her breath, trying to collect herself. The girl suggests that it might be poison. The guy is scared by what he heard, not expecting such news. There are sick people lying in bed in the infirmary, and the doctors are trying to do everything possible to cure them. One of the doctors uses magic to cure poison. The girl warns the doctors that she will quickly run for Theo so that he can help. She brings the guy to the infirmary and asks them how the treatment is going. To which the woman, with a sad expression on her face, replies that everything is very bad, because the magic of curing poison unfortunately does not work. The man, hearing this, anxiously wonders what it means that the magic to cure the poison does not work. He asks what condition they are in now. The doctor, intently examining the patients, says that they have a high temperature and severe vomiting, claiming that this is a common symptom of food poisoning. The guys are surprised by what they hear. Kelly, now with some knowledge, reports that 7 more people have fallen ill, all living in the same house. She adds that they have tested the rest of the people as well, and they suspect that they ate something that could have caused the reaction. The guy watching Kelly understands that she is an excellent researcher and her value is not very strong in other areas. But now she is very much needed. Theo asks Kelly with interest if they have a healer, to which the girl confidently says that she knows it. She starts laying out the food on the tablecloth, saying that all this needs to be checked, because this is what they ate yesterday, those 7 people. Kelly asks the guy what they could have gotten poisoned with. Seeing that he is preoccupied with caring for his friends, the guy uses his eye to analyze and says he will check everything now. He carefully brings his palm to the products, evaluating and analyzing them. The doctors and Kelly, full of curiosity and hope, watch patiently and wait for the results, whispering nervously among themselves. Suddenly, Theo notices something among the products being analyzed. The guy, leaning forward with interest, picks up a small berry and asks what it is. The girl, perplexed, replies that it is a regular strawberry, and Kelly adds that she has eaten a lot of them herself, and even says that she was once treated with such a berry as a child, which sounds quite harmless and familiar. Kelly, surprised, asks if the guy really means to say that this is not the strawberry that grows in their land, because it looks very similar to it. The guy, holding the berries in his hands, answers with doubt, denies to the girl that strawberries are not harmless. The man insists that this is the main reason for their illness, assuring everyone that these berries contain poison. The boys, hearing this, look around in surprise, not believing their ears. Kelly, incredulous, says that she would never have guessed that they were poisoned by the way they looked. She adds that this is why adventurers should always be careful and definitely not eat plants they don't know anything about. The guy agrees with her, continues to think, says that it really does look like a real strawberry. He suggests that it could be either water or soil, but he is confident that they are old and, although weak, are still poisonous. The girl asks the guy again, and he persistently asks her how many of these berries she ate. Kelly, thinking, answers that about 5. The man says that you won't die from such a quantity, that you can just drink more water and then she will feel better. To which the girl, feeling relieved, agrees with him. The doctor and Kelly are happy that they have finally found the cause of their illness. Suddenly, they look at each other sadly, about to tell something unpleasant to the guy. Kelly, with a heavy sigh, admits that the truth is they have someone with more serious symptoms. She takes the guy by the hand and leads him into another room where the sick Victor lies in serious condition. Theo is frightened to see his friend sick and is worried about Victor unable to contain his anxiety. The girl tells him that he has a high fever and has lost consciousness, explaining that Victor ate as much as the others, but he is the worst of all. The boy wonders why it has happened to him, his voice shaking with worry. Kelly, trying to calm him down, says that although Victor is old, he is more resilient than all of them. She adds that she does not think that he will die simply from poison. However, the doctor, not believing her words, says, "Hasn't she looked pale for several days?" Theo, looking at the man, admits that Victor has been working too much lately, and that is why, in addition to the poisoning, he is also overworked. The guy remembers the moment when Victor, tired from such hard work, began to feel pain in his chest. Inside, Theo feels angry at himself for not being able to help his friend back then. And now he understands that everything could have been different if he had managed to pay attention to his condition in time. Suddenly, Victor, slightly opening his eyes, wakes up and Theo, worried about him, asks how he feels. The guy asks with concern what happened to him, to which Victor barely recognizes him, trying to get up, but it seems that each attempt is very difficult for him. The man, feeling guilty, begins to apologize to him, saying that he is ashamed of himself and that the guy should not look at him in such a state. To which Theo, with a warm and reassuring smile, says that everything is fine and he should just rest and recuperate. The boy sits down next to the man, admitting that this continent turned out to be much worse than he thought, because now they need to first evaluate all the ingredients they work with and be more careful. Victor, hearing this, laughs and agrees with him. The man says he must work hard because he sees Theo working hard too and admits that's why he doesn't rest. But suddenly the man goes silent and tension fills the room again. Kelly, worried, says he's passed out again. The girl says that if this continues, the worst could happen. And the guy gets very scared, twitching from what he hears. Suddenly he stands up, feeling a surge of determination, and excuses himself, asking Kelly to take care of everyone with the doctor. The doctor, confused, asks where he is going. The guy thinks that now, being the one everyone considers the best adventurer, he can't just sit on the sidelines and wait for everything to resolve itself. Theo loudly declares that he will go and find the antidote. When he gets home, he notices his friends, who seem genuinely interested in how he is. He asks if they have been waiting for him all this time. The girl, worried, asks Theo if he is okay. The guy, a little nervous, collects his thoughts, trying to tell them something, and finally says that he needs to go somewhere for a while. Suddenly, a wonderful idea comes to his mind. Theo asks Theo and Shiro if they know the area and says he needs herbs. The man asks if they know where the healing herbs grow. The girl's eyes light up, and Theo, impatiently, confirms that she knows where the healing herbs grow, and the wolf, confirming her words, barks joyfully. She points out the window at a huge mountain and says that there really are medicinal herbs growing there. Theo adds that although the herbs taste disgusting, the taste will improve over time. The guy, happy to hear about this, thanks her for her help and warns her that he is going after them. But the girl, slightly pale, says with fear that there is a bear there. The boy is also frightened by what he heard. The boy asks in horror if they really mean to say that the bear lives where medicinal herbs grow. And the girl nods sadly, her expression becoming even more gloomy. She says that the bear killed everyone and that she is scared just from the thought of it. The guy is surprised, weakening his shoulders from what he heard. The guy begins to think that it means that the bear has occupied Theo and Shiro's territory, and that's where these healing herbs grow. He begins to realize that since Shiro is a magical wolf, he remembers Kelly mentioning that they may be of a higher species, and he realizes that even they couldn't defeat him. The guy imagines himself on the upcoming expedition and realizes that, in all likelihood, he himself will not be able to defeat this creature. But remembering that he has his faithful Begeliev, he decides that he must still try. The man, sitting closer to Begeliev, begins with a request. He addresses him, apologizing in advance, realizing that this could be dangerous, but sincerely asks Begeliev to go with him. Theo admits that he really wants to help Victor, and that's why he really needs his help. Begeliev, watching him, only silently looks into Theo's eyes, immersed in his own thoughts. However, with a displeased expression on his face, Begeliev lowers his gaze and, to the boy's surprise, admits that he doesn't want to and doesn't understand why he should go. To which Theo looks at him in surprise, not understanding his refusal. Begeliev, with some persistence, sets the conditions that if he goes with him, the boy will play with him all day. The boy listens to him attentively, trying to understand how to fulfill this request. Begeliev confidently declares that he agrees with him and is ready to do anything, if only they could complete the task and save Victor. Theo, looking at his dragon, feels a deep joy that Begeliev is his. He already understands that he will continue to cherish them and value their friendship. Suddenly, Theo and Shiro, with bright lights in their eyes, say that they also want to go with them, to which the guy, raising his eyebrows in surprise, looks at them. Theo, watching the girl hugging the wolf, wonders in confusion if they really will go with them too. Suddenly, as if reading his thoughts, Shiro tells the boy not to worry about the bear, speaking with a confidence that Theo didn't expect to hear. He looks at him in surprise. feeling slightly confused. Shiro says with confidence that even though they lost their family, he says that they really trust him, which surprises the guy again. The man, closing his eyes, wonders whether it is worth taking them along on this dangerous adventure. But he understands that in order to quickly find the herbs, he really needs them. Theo, having made up his mind, agrees with them and states that if they sense danger and he tells them to run away, they must do so immediately. The boys readily agree, full of determination and courage. The guy leaves the house, confidently saying that it's time for them to go. He admits that first they need to visit Victor in the infirmary to find out how he is. Kelly, seeing the guy, asks how his work on the antidote is progressing. The man replies that he has a rough idea of what the poison is made of, but he needs herbs to create it. He asks if they can take care of the patients for one more night. The guy says that if necessary, let them carry everyone to him, because if they are very sick, it is better to use the toilet in his house. Kelly, slightly surprised, asks how he was able to get it all done so quickly. The guy apologizes to her for asking too much at such a difficult time. The man clenches his fist in excitement and says that he needs to find the necessary herbs for Victor as soon as possible to save him. Theo, loudly declaring his intention, says that they are going deep into the forest. The girl raises her eyebrows in surprise. Kelly asks if he has gone crazy because there are dangerous animals there, to which the man replies that this is the only way to save Victor, so they will all go there together. To which the man replies that this is the only option to save Victor, and so they will all go there together. He reassures Kelly, adding that as soon as they sense danger, they will immediately run away. Kelly, looking at him, understands what is happening, and the guy says that they simply have no other choice and they must act. The girl agrees that they should go and says that even though they cannot estimate how dangerous the bear the girl spoke of is, they should be careful. The man confidently tells her not to worry because they will act very carefully. The boys, full of determination and ready for adventure, gather and all together go away from the camp into the depths of the forest. The doctor, watching what is happening from the window, turns to Kelly to ask something, but the girl interrupts him, saying that they have no choice, so they will have to let him go on this dangerous journey. Kelly explains that even though they call themselves scientists, they know absolutely nothing about this continent, and this makes her uneasy. She looks at the mountain and, with hope in her mind, asks them to be very careful, because she is really worried about them. Walking through the forest, the boy reminds the boys that as soon as he says or they decide for themselves, they must run away with all their might. Theo and Shiro, nodding to him in agreement and trust, are determined to take all precautions. The boy regrets that he is not strong enough to protect them all, but even so he vows to protect them with all his might until the end. He says that it is time for them to go, and they head deeper into the forest, straight towards the mountain that the girl mentioned earlier, full of hope and determination to save Victor and find the healing herbs that may be the key to salvation. Kelly, with a little indignation, scolds Theo, saying that he should try it. She persistently asks why he hesitates and does not dare to take a step forward. The guy, overcome with fear from what is happening, tries to find the right words to refuse this strange offer. But his thoughts are confused. Kelly's friend tells Theo to cast aside his doubts and boldly move forward, to which the boy, nervously and tiredly turning his head away, understands that this will not end well. Kelly, remembering a recent episode when Theo was looking for stones for a well, regretfully reminds that Bezhiliev once asked to protect this territory. The girl thinks that perhaps it is worth trying. Because the dragon respects him, she convinces him that maybe then other animals won't come into this territory, offering to try on that tree. Theo, covering his face with his hand, says in despair that he would never agree to such a thing. The guy starts scratching the back of his head and looking away, feeling that Kelly has always been indifferent to this kind of thing. Suddenly, he notices Theo, Shiro, and Bezhiliev in front of him, looking at him with sparkling eyes. The guy is scared by what he sees and does not understand what they want from him at this moment, to which Kelly, with a little insistence, says that they are counting on him too. She asks him if he really wants to destroy their hope and hurt them. The guy stops in a stupor and doesn't understand what to do now in this situation. Disappointed in himself, he understands that by human standards this is not cultural. At this time, the guys are walking in the forest, and Theo has clearly come up with something interesting for herself. The man understands that this is the social part of the animals' lives, but he still cannot understand why he should do this. Suddenly, Theo grabs Bezhiliev by the tail. The guy, clutching his head, begins to shake it, not understanding why he took Theo and the others with him. He is lost in thoughts about what to do with this now, and the girl is already happily flying on Begaliof's tail, causing a smile. The guy, looking back at his merry friends, begins to wonder if they have already forgotten about this strange proposal. Despite the situation, he notices that they don't seem to care anymore. Kelly notices that the kids are bored sometimes, and it's as if she's come up with a new idea, as if she finds a way to cheer them up, when suddenly the girl shouts at the guy. Theo turns around and looks at her. She shows him a large worm in front of his face and, with innocent interest, asks what he will say about it. But the guy gets scared and screams throughout the forest, retreating back. Kelly asks with a smile, "Isn't this a cute little baby?" The guy, looking at this creature, is scared half to death. He asks her in awe what it is. Kelly says she doesn't know either. She just found it by the road. She admits she asked Theo, and the boy is surprised, thinking Theo knows everything. Kelly says Theo told her it was completely tasteless. The guy thought about her words. Kelly asks him if he wants to try it. Theo shakes his head in denial and replies with surprise that he is very sorry that the girl had to eat it. He, looking at Theo playing with the wolf, says that when her herd was destroyed, willy-nilly, she will have to eat at least something in order to survive. Kelly replies that knowledge of how to live is determined by life itself, and if they had to eat all sorts of worms in this area, then they themselves believe that this is real life. She admits that she is telling him this only so that he will understand how important it is for them. The guy, thinking about her words, is surprised by what he heard, discovering understanding, perhaps trying to look at things from a different perspective. The man understands that Kelly's very eccentric, but she can be trusted. He suddenly realizes that she trusts her friends too. The guy apologizes to her, saying that he didn't know how much she cares about the girl and the other children. He grabs his head again and admits that he actually thought she was only interested in people as objects to study. To which the girl, hearing this, starts laughing, asking if that's really how she looks from that side. Kelly, still laughing, asks if he himself doesn't wonder what they taste like. To which the guy, in a panic, screams that she's crazy and asks her to get this monster away from him. Theo, finally losing patience, admits that he did everything possible to ensure that they would not have this for dinner. To which the girl, with a smile, apologizes and admits that it was just funny to watch his reaction. The man wonders, why does he need all this? The boys run quickly through the dense forest, the atmosphere of which is filled with freshness and a light breeze. Theo, running next to the girl, asks her how far they still have to run. To which the girl, confident in her powers and sitting astride the wolf, joyfully replies that there is only a little bit left. She claims that they are almost there and that the medicinal herb is exactly in the direction she points. The guy begins to analyze the surrounding circle with his eyes and thinks that he must try his best for Victor. He gathers all his thoughts and runs through the forest, using his appraisal magic to determine what might be useful in their search. Soon they climb into the tall grass, and the girl, noticing that the wolf has stopped, asks him what happened. He answers that there are herbs here, but Theo, frowning, replies that she does not know any. The girl then turns to the guy, asking if there is anything valuable here. After analyzing it, the guy, with slight bewilderment, answers, "Is it really true that they went all this time just for this?" The man, having collected his thoughts, decides that he will use the skill evaluation on all objects around him. He decides to collect absolutely everything that might be useful. The girl asks her friend with pleasure and admiration if he can really know everything about an object just by looking at it. Theo admits that Theo is an amazing person. To this the boy, smiling modestly, agrees and says that this is just his skill. The girl, with admiration, wags her tail, admiring him. Theo admits that he hasn't been praised for his judgment ability for a long time, and he recalls that it helps him analyze even people, which surprised everyone he traveled with. The man uses the effect of his skill appraisal and begins to examine every blade of grass in this clearing, immersing himself in the process. He admits that herbs against the poison are quite difficult to find, to which the girl, full of hope, replies that despite this, they still have to find it. Suddenly she remembers something, and she points her finger to the side, confidently saying that they need to go there. The man agrees with her and asks her to fill him in on the situation. Suddenly, Theo realizes that it might not be safe when he suddenly steps on something big and round. The girl, with obvious concern, asks him to be as careful as possible because he should watch his step. The guy, with slight bewilderment, replies that he did not know that mushrooms could have the ability to explode, sincerely surprised. Suddenly, on the right side, he finds a huge plant devouring some kind of reptile. The boys, having overcome their fears, walk along the landslides, descending lower and further into the mysterious depths of the forest. Walking along the road, they notice a huge snake, and the boys instinctively hide from it behind a tree, holding their breath. The girl joyfully shouts that they have finally arrived at the place. To which the guy, covering his face with his hands from confusion and fatigue, admits that the way here is clearly not short and, perhaps, was full of difficulties. The girl, without wasting any time, tears up a couple of leaves and, enthusiastically showing them, declares that this is exactly what they came here for, reverently holding in her hands the precious finds that could become a real salvation for Victor. She, with a slight smile on her face, says that when she ate it, she felt much better. The guy, having listened carefully, agrees with her and invites her to check it out, as if it were something unusual and exciting. He uses his keen eye, which seemed to reflect the whole breadth of knowledge, and understands that this is just a medicinal herb that grows well in the forests, improves bowel function, and eliminates stomach pain. The girl, hearing this, suddenly becomes angry at what she heard, not believing this simple explanation, as if her hopes for something more had been dashed against the rocks of reality. The boy, with unperturbed calm, says that this herb is best suited for treating the stomach, and the poison that she fears so much, it is unlikely to remove. To which Fia, feeling growing anxiety, begins to panic, because she thinks that she brought them here in vain, forcing them to go such a huge path which, perhaps, does not make sense. To which Theo, surprisingly at that moment, grabs her by the head, gently stroking her and, confidently denying her words, tries to calm her down and convince her not to worry, because together they can cope with any difficulties. The guy smiles and strokes the girl's head and tells her that they will be useful to them when they find an antidote, and says that Fio is a good girl and did a good job. Fio beamed, waggled her tail, and happily agreed with the guy with a smile. They all collect the grass together, and the main character thinks that even if it is not an antidote, Victor will feel better. Suddenly, the beast calls him by name. Theo looks and asks what happened to Begoliev. Begoliev reports that something interesting smells, but he doesn't know what it is. The beast shows itself. The guy asks it to stand. The guy runs after him and asks him to wait for him. The guy sees that between the trees there is a pond surrounded by stones. He thinks about whether this is a hot spring. The main character is amazed by the size and says that it looks more like a swimming pool. He looks into the distance and says that even the other side of the shore is barely visible. It is very big. Belaf touches the water with his tongue and tells Theo that the water is hot. Then the guy realized that it was a hot spring after all. The guy looks at its effects. Restoring fatigue and skin problems, it's not suitable. You can come here later. The girl notices something and asks Theo to look into the distance. She tells that there are herbs there too. Theo asks if they are on the other bank. She answers positively. She sees them. The protagonist looks closely and thinks that even from here he cannot see them and cannot appreciate them. The main character says that they need to get closer, but due to the size of the source, they will get there until the evening. Bekiliov stomps, and the guy notices this. The beast climbs into the water with a smile and, sighing, asks the surprised protagonist to rely on him. Then they float right on it. The protagonist asks him to be slower, and he agrees. The girl says that it is fun, but Theo says that you can die and asks him to be slower. The main character looks ahead at the shore and realizes that the shore is already visible. They have almost arrived. Begiliev swims to the end. They finally swim and get off the beast. The main character thanks him. The main character is surprised by the flowers. The main character stands right in front of a meadow strewn with beautiful flowers. They are amazed at how beautiful it is here. It is a flower meadow. The guy takes one of the flowers in his hand and offers to look at its properties. He concentrates and carefully studies the effects of the flower. The girl looks at the flower in surprise and asks Theo if this is what they need. The guy is silent and Begiliev asks what is there. The main character stretches his arms forward and hugs all three partners, which surprises them. The guy happily tells them that they have finally found them, healing herbs that cure poisons. The main character joyfully holds a flower in front of him. Everyone looks at him. Then they start screaming with joy. The girl repeats several times that they finally found it. They all pick flowers, and the guy says that this is enough. The guy thanks them all with a smile because they tried very hard. Now Victor will be saved. They all look at the guy in surprise. The beast thinks that this is all for his new pack. Begeliath is happy that he was praised, and the girl laughs. The girl turns to Theo and says that it is time to go home. Begeliath says that everyone is waiting only for him. The main character says with a smile that since they found the herbs and nothing happened to them, it's time to return home, but suddenly everyone falls into a stupor because of some sound. The protagonist stands in front of his companions, who are also wary and think that he suddenly sensed someone's evil aura. The guy looks into the forest and realizes that this aura is coming right in front of him. He thinks about who could be there. The main character warns everyone to be careful and not to run forward under any circumstances. The beast looks angrily ahead and growls. The guy is tense and thinks about who could be there. Theo remembers that he has already managed to go through many different battles and see many different monsters. The main character steps forward, hides behind a tree and looks out from behind it. Realizing that this creature is much more terrible than all those, he sees someone's silhouette in the bushes. The guy continues to look in shock and thinks only about who this is. In the middle of the bushes stands a huge monster. An ominous aura emanates from him. He holds something in his hand. The main character looks at this creature in shock, thinking about who it is, while his companions angrily look at the monster, who at this time is simply standing in place. Then the creature begins to move through the bushes, and the main character notices it behind the tree. The guy shows his companions a hand gesture and whispers to them to stay here and not stick their heads out. They silently watch and listen to him. The main character also asks Begeliath not to come closer. He is not very smart with hand signs, but he hopes that he understood him. Theo is then again amazed by the aura emanating from the creature, realizing that this monster is not like any monster he has ever met. Could it be a spirit or a demon? The girl angrily growls at the creature and calls it a bear. The main character asks her if this is the same bear that attacked them then. Theo thinks that no matter how you look at this creature, it doesn't look like a bear. Does it really look like a bear to Theo and Shiro? However, it doesn't matter at all now. What should he do next? That's what he should think about. The creature tightens its grip on the ropes it holds in its clawed paws, and then the frightened little wolves it holds tied to those ropes appear. They walk forward and growl. Breathing heavily, the guy is surprised and thinks that these are wolves, the same as Shiro. The main character remembers the words of his companions, that it was the bear that separated them. The guy looks at Theo and Shiro in shock, realizing where this is all leading. He looks in surprise at Theo and Shiro, who are looking angrily at their enemy with bared teeth. Then they both start growling at him, and then Theo realizes the fact that there is no longer any doubt it was he who attacked Theo and Shiro. The boy thinks about the little wolf cubs being led by the creature. One of the wolves makes a sound, and then the creature hits him with all its force, causing him to squeal. The creature then opens its mouth and starts screaming loudly, hitting another wolf, leaving everyone else shaking in fear. Theo looks on with tears and anger. She is ready to pounce on him when the monster starts screaming again. The main character tries to stay calm. All adventurers should follow this rule, otherwise in case of danger, the whole group may die. The guy remembers how he followed the goblins. However, Theo promises that none of them will die. The guy turns his attention to Begeliath. The main character mentally asks the beast if he will help him kill the creature, and he agrees. Theo looks at his companions and asks Theo and Shiro to stay here. They look at him. He says that he needs to calm down, because it will be better this way. The main character tells them to stay here and not stick their heads out. He and the Begeliath will distract him and save those wolf cubs. The guy thinks about how to distract him now. The guy asks Begeliath to listen to him. He tells him his plan, and the beast asks the guy if everything will be okay. The main character sits on the grass and says with a smile that everything will definitely be fine. Let him believe him. Theo smiles and says that he swore to protect them all, and the beast listens to him. Begeliath agrees with him, and the protagonist says that everything is fine. He turns to Theo and Shiro. The guy asks them to listen and tells them not to blame themselves, because even if they blame themselves for what happened, it will not fix the situation. He admits that they are not to blame for what happened. Theo listens to him, and the main character strokes her head. The girl thinks in surprise that this is the first time he stroked her. She thinks about it. She reflects on how she felt so calm at that moment. The guy finally offers to start and looks at the silhouette of the enemy. The main character thinks at first he needs to come closer, then he does it. Luckily for him, he doesn't even look back, which means he's very confident in his abilities, in which case he'll have to show him that he's not that strong. The guy goes forward and uses the creation skill along the way. A club appears in his hand. The guy understands that now he has a weapon. He squeezes it tightly. However, he still needs to be careful. There are 15 meters left to the target. The guy is getting closer and closer. The main character flies out screaming and runs straight at his enemy, shouting at him to get what he deserves. The monster turns to the protagonist, and he thinks that this is great because now all his attention is focused on me. The guy thinks that Theo and Shiro are sitting as they should, which means he shouldn't feel sorry for himself at the moment. The main character looks at his enemy with a smile and thinks about how strong he is. The guy rushes at the enemy. The guy angrily punches and yells at his enemy that he thanks him for making him angry. Something suddenly starts to crack. The monster blocks the guy's blow with his weapon, and the guy's weapon breaks into pieces. The protagonist looks at the broken weapon in shock and thinks that his enemy is quite fast. His weapon is stronger than his. The guy also notices that he fights well after the monster hits the main character and he flies to the side. The protagonist thinks that everything is going exactly as he planned. The monster notices something. In fact, Theo deliberately made his weapon fragile so that he would break it, because in reality the fragments. Then the guy uses the creation again. These fragments can actually be used as weapons too. The fragments hit the monster right in the face and he doesn't start screaming. The guy made a direct hit. After this, the monster releases the ropes and the wolves are free. Theo thinks that he has freed them and needs to act now. When the monster opens his eyes, he sees only some flash from the forest and is surprised by this. The protagonist shouts at Begeliath, who hears this and uses an attack directly from his mouth on the monster. When they were preparing for this, the main character told Begeliath that as soon as the guy said so, he should shoot straight at him. After this, the main character will tie him up and hold him until the very end, using the rope that was used to create the well. The protagonist managed to put shackles on the monster. At the same time, Begeliath's attack approaches them. The guy tells the monster that his end has come, and suddenly a flash of light appears in place of the monster. The boy asked Theo and Shiro to listen to him when he told them that he and Begeliath would distract him, and they would have to save the wolf cubs. The boy asked them not to overdo it and save their brothers and sisters during Begeliath's attack. Theo successfully takes the wolf cubs and leaves from there. She is very happy that everything worked out for her. She is very happy that they are saved. The wolves begin to rejoice. However, what about that monster? She looks at the guy who is standing right in front of the monster and thinks that this is very amazing. The monster stands unharmed right in front of the protagonist, who is amazed that he is still alive. Suddenly, the monster opens its toothy mouth and begins to scream, rushing at Theo. The main character remembers his adventures with the hero. It's good that he hasn't lost all his skills yet. The guy dodges the monster's blow. The guy confidently says that he is tired of this. It is time for him to finish with him. The guy stretches his hand forward and uses the assessment skill on the monster. Theo studies it and shouts to the beast Begeliath that this monster is afraid of fire. Begeliath understands this. The main character thinks that this monster is very strong, and unlike ordinary monsters, he feels anger towards all living things. It's better to sort things out with him right now, because in the future he might become stronger and attack the camp. At home, a girl with a tub and a rag sits in front of a man. Someone calls Kelly. She understands that they have returned and looks back. The main character enters the house holding his head. The girl is very happy about his arrival. Theo asks how they are. Kelly reports that it's good. Most people are gradually getting better. However, Victor is getting worse and worse. We need to start treating him as soon as possible. That's why I came. The guy takes flowers out of his bag and says that he will now create an antidote. The girl asks him if he found the herbs. He agrees and says that it almost cost him his life. The main character tells her that he will tell her about it later. And now he puts the medicine on the table. The guy next to Kelly asks her if he knows how to make medicine. She gives a positive answer. He is very surprised by this because he has never heard of anyone using production skills to make medicines. Because usually this skill makes it easy to make some household items, chairs for example. The girl now understands why Victor wanted Theo to join the expedition. The guy says that he's finally finished, shows them the bottle. They tell him that he's a good boy. The girl says that they need to give it to Victor. The main character says that not yet. He uses the assessment and reports that although he made an antidote, there is no guarantee that it will work the first time. The protagonist says that they are now talking about the human body, but what if Victor is so weak that he dies from the potion? They ask him what he suggests then, and Theo puts the potion on the table. The guy asks them to give him a poisonous red berry to eat. Everyone is surprised by this. Theo says that as soon as he eats it, he will immediately take the antidote. They have little time for observation because this is the only way he can make sure that everything is fine with the medicine. The girl asks him not to be stupid. What will happen to them if he dies? Someone's voice says that in this case he wants to be the first to try the medicine. The guy is surprised. It was the awakened Victor speaking. He is asked if he is sleeping and asked not to get up. The man says that he trusts Theo and his skill. He opens the bottle of medicine with a sound. The man drinks the potion, but the boy shouts his name, but it's too late. After that, the man falls silent. After this, Victor suddenly starts coughing, and the main character, in horror, asks him how he feels. Victor says it's very bitter. Theo apologizes because he didn't have time to work on the taste at all. Victor says that good medicine always tastes bitter. He coughs even more and Theo thinks, is it really that bitter? Victor is suddenly surprised by something and asks what it is. Some bubbles appear in the air. The guy is surprised to hear that the poison is leaving the body this way. The girl takes Victor's hand and realizes that his pulse has also returned. The protagonist understands that before taking the medicine, Victor was on the verge of death. The man turns to Theo with a smile. He already said that he completely trusts him. The main character with a smile asks him to stop fooling the old man. The protagonist lays out the medicines on the floor on the cloth. He says that he's already finished the medicines for everyone. The girl thanks him. Theo says that she knows how to use it. He would like to ask Kelly for something. Kelly asks again in surprise about the pseudo-bear, and the guy says that Theo was talking about a bear. But for them, a bear is not what they imagine. He remembers that very monster and thinks about how to say it. The protagonist says it was a demon, but let it be a pseudo-bear. Kelly asks why such complications are needed if she understands him. They manage to defeat him only with the help of Begalios' magic. He found something in his ashes. It was inside him, some kind of prickly object. The girl is surprised and asks if it is a magic stone. She understands the fact that all magical monsters must have one, and it drops from them after death. She honestly doesn't know much about them, but this stone looks quite ominous. The main character says that it is not quite so because he has already used the assessment on him. It is not a monster. The girl is surprised by this. The guy explains that in fact it's not just that. He's like a non-existent creature. Kelly listens to Theo in surprise. Even the guy's assessment could not fully reveal information about him. He is encountering someone like him for the first time. The plants they know are poisonous. There are creatures here that are unknown to them. How many more discoveries will this new continent bring them? The guy does not know how many more dangers they will have to endure in the future. Kelly says that he will help them anyway. The guy replies that, of course, and turns to the girl again. The guy tells her that he forgot to mention one small detail. Once everyone gets better, let her share this information with them. She turns back in shock to the wolf cubs who are staring at her. The wolf cubs look at the girl with affection. The main character apologizes to Kelly for not telling her earlier. Just let her not look at him with such a murderous look. The weather is nice outside. There is a lot of foam and someone says that it is interesting. Kelly, Theo, and Shiro wash the wolf cubs in foam, and the girl asks why Theo moved the information about such cute ones to the background. Are they relatives of Theo and Shiro? If so, then let them show them the rules of life with them later. She says that they are very nervous now, but they should not worry, because everything will be fine with them. She will not let them go anywhere dirty. Kelly says that this concerns them too. Looking at Theo and Shiro in surprise, one of the wolf cubs screams, and the girl looks at them in surprise. Kelly apologizes to the wolf cub for touching his wound. She notices bruises and contusions all over his body. There are no serious wounds or fractures. She is very sorry. She promises that in the future, she will be more careful. The wolf cub starts to whine and tremble. The girl says that Theo told her everything. They went through so much pain. But now, everything will definitely be fine. The girl hugs the wolf cub and asks them not to be afraid. because now they are safe and no one will touch them here. The wolf cub begins to wag his tail. Theo approaches Kelly and tells her that even though she is a little weird, they like her. She wonders why she's weird. However, Theo asks what she's talking about. The protagonist goes inside with Begelyaf and apologizes to Kelly for causing her problems again. The girl shows 3 wolf cubs with a smile, clean and wrapped in towels. The guy is surprised by this. The guy asks her why. The girl says that it is difficult to dry them, and at least they will not freeze or get sick. Let them not worry, they will dry. He will take it off. Theo understands that they've already got along. The girl agrees with him and says that they very quickly realized that there was no danger for them here, especially when she bathed them so thoroughly. By the way, they were very calm, even calmer than Theo and Shiro. The main character looks at these two. They look guiltily at the floor. They just don't like the smell of soap. The girl turns to Theo and asks him to wipe them. The guy agrees and says that they will need to be fed later. Suddenly, all 3 wolf cubs start moving and untangle themselves from the towels. Kelly and Theo don't understand what's happening. Then Theo realizes that they haven't eaten in a long time. Theo tells the wolf cubs that there is a lot of delicious food here. They are given a large piece of meat and can eat as much as they want. The wolf cubs begin to shine with thoughts of meat. The girl first asks Theo to bring the food quickly and then asks him to stop when he was already taking out a piece of meat. Kelly reports that they've been living in poor conditions and have not eaten for a long time. Their condition is even worse than Theo and Shiro were initially. If they feed them enough now, it will harm their health. The protagonist asks if this is true, but this cannot be allowed. At first, they will need to be fed in small portions. The wolf cubs look at the small portion of food in a stupor. Theo looks at the amount of food and calls Kelly cruel, although before she thought she was nice. There is some kind of flash. The main character looks at the overturned bottles of medicine in shock and bewilderment and thinks about what happened here. Yesterday, he prepared medicine for everyone and brought the little wolf cubs. By the end of the day, he was very tired. The wolf cubs were playing with Kelly, and Theo and Shiro were watching this. The main character had a lot of dirty bottles left, and as a result, he fell asleep in this state. However, why does he now see his own reflection in these bottles? He thinks about Begelyaf, but it doesn't look like him. The guy thinks that maybe it was Kelly who did it. But she was also very tired yesterday. And Begelyaf and the others are still sleeping. He notices some creature behind the basket and asks who it is. The creature gets scared. The main character thinks that it is someone very small, a monster. Suddenly the slime jumps out from behind the basket and starts squeaking. The main character looks at it in a stupor and realizes that it is a slime. Because of its appearance, everyone considers it a very weak monster. But in fact, this is far from the case. They can be poisonous, of course. They have low intelligence. Therefore, they attack as a group and try to dissolve, poison, or trample the enemy. He remembers how he ran away from a crowd of slugs. He looks at the thin slime, thinking that they are driven by only one desire, hunger. The guy asks the slime not to make any sudden movements, but the slime jumps towards him, and Theo realizes that it has pounced on him. The protagonist looks in shock as the slime jumps onto his hands and squeaks happily. He asks what happened to the slime. After all, the main character has never seen such a friendly slime. Is the local species different from theirs? And if he tries to talk to it, the main character uses taming. The guy mentally tells the slime that he is Theodore, and what is his name. The slime tells him that it is nice to meet him. But all this is interrupted by beeping, and the guy understands that his thoughts are very difficult to read. The slime calls the guy's name and says it's delicious. The protagonist thinks that he heard something that reminded him of his name. He really needs to concentrate. Then the main character again hears the slime say his name and say that it is delicious. The main character, in shock, asks the slime if it wants to eat him, but it only squeaks in response. Then the slime starts jumping to the side. The food at the same time. The main character looks at this in surprise, and the slime approaches the jar of medicine. The main character is surprised by the bottle and asks the slime if he cleaned them, and it squeaks in response. The guy hears the slime's thoughts. That it likes the smell, it's very tasty. The main character has a feeling of déjà vu. He remembers such a moment with Begelyaf. Theodore asks the slime if he liked the smell because of the mana. Is that what he wants to say, since it's the same with the Begelyaf? The slime agrees and thinks that he is food for them. The guy thinks that yes, monsters always stuck to him. Does it mean that his mana is really a delicacy for them? The slime says that of course it is, and asks to give even more. The protagonist pokes his finger at the soft slime and tells him that only if he becomes his familiar, the slime agrees, and the protagonist is surprised at how simple everything turned out to be. Everyone here is an adventurer, and for them the image of slime is something like this: dangerous, hungry, and evil. Will it bring them more benefit than harm? The main character agrees and thinks that most likely there will clearly be more advantages. The guy tells the slime that he cleaned not only the bottles but also the floor. Is that his job? The slime squeaks and says that the floor was dirty, he cleaned it, and now the floor is shiny. The guy discontentedly introduces 2 cleaning duty officers who are already tired of cleaning every day. The main character throws the slime up and tells him that from today his name is Pi, he will be cleaning. Theo has tamed the slime. Everyone looks at the slime and thinks that he is very cute. The main character realizes that Pi is already quite popular. Day breaks, birds fly in the sky. 2 guys go outside and are surprised that Victor is standing calmly on his feet. They ask him if he is feeling better since yesterday he was clearly unable to even walk. The man says that it's all Theo's merit. They are surprised and say that he is a jack of all trades. When he heard about mass poisoning, he could not help. He chose the wrong team. The guys look at Kelly in surprise, who has slime on her shoulders, and say that they want that too. What the hell is going on here? The main character says with a smile that this is Pi, he is now with them, but no matter how you look at it, it is slime. The whole company is surprised by the slime. The main character asks them not to worry. When he was in the heroes group, he suffered enough with the slime, so everything will definitely be fine. When the slime sucks out his mana, it also relaxes his body, so he does it even better than the masseuse in the capital. The only thing that is tense is his head. It's not just about the massage though, he shows a stack of clean clothes. Victor is surprised by this, and Theo says that he seems to like dirt. Victor calls the slime useful and says it's nice to meet Pi. After which the slime jumps on Victor and sucks the mana out of him. The plates remain empty, and Victor says that since they have already eaten, they need to discuss work for today. The main character realized that the massage had an effect on him too. Victor talks about how their work has stopped since yesterday. Everyone is sitting and listening to him. Then one guy raises his hand and asks if he can say something about this. He says that although many of them have fallen ill, so far everything is going according to plan. They have advanced quite far. They can even look at this. Theo is immediately told that she will not go anywhere and will stay here. She sits with the wolves. The group moves forward through the forest. Theo is happy with his plot of land and says that he is really looking forward to it. Begeliaf looks at him. He has dreamed about this all his life. That is why he came here. Freedom and independence. At first he thought it would be difficult, but then he calmed down. The guy wants to see the lands as soon as possible. Suddenly everyone in shock asks what it is. The main character turns around and thinks about what managed to happen. They all ask what happened here. Holes appeared on the ground. The main character is shocked the fields are already destroyed. Victor says that it is some kind of horror. They look around and think that yesterday people were working here and today the earth is already in craters. Someone is touching the earth with their hand. Kelly touches the ground and reports that this was clearly done by some monster, not a human. And the protagonist is surprised. She holds a tuft of wool in her hands and says that at first glance it looks like a chimera. Nothing more to say. The guy notices something and asks her to wait. The girl reports that it was most likely a chimera, an animal with body parts of different animals. The guy is shocked and asks if this is serious. Everyone is shocked that a chimera did this. The guy asks Kelly what the chimera is doing in these parts. The girl says that judging by the hair, it looks like her. She doesn't know what she is doing here. Chimeras are powerful monsters that consist of many beasts combined together. And chimeras also possess magic, and their strength is not inferior to dragons. And the most important thing is that they are aggressive and dangerous. They didn't even think that there were monsters stronger than that bear here. They discussed that she might attack again, so they need to find her and kill her. But how can they track her down since she left no traces? The protagonist asks Begeliaf if he can track her by scent, and he says that he can. Begeliaf tries to attack the chimera's trail. He points to the side and asks to go there. The main character understands that this is not a quick matter. The slime thinks that it looks like there is someone strong there. Suddenly it falls off the guy's shoulder. He is surprised. The slime starts jumping, running away. The main character runs after it and asks to stop what suddenly came over him. Pi tells the main character that he senses mana. There is a lot of it there. The guy is surprised. Victor asks the guy what's wrong with Pi. The guy says that it looks like he found the one who destroyed the fields. The protagonist recalls the slime's words that he senses mana, and even his massage effect confirms this. It turns out that he is able to catch even the slightest glimmer of mana. Theo smiles and says that he will find a chimera. However, the man warns that it is dangerous. Let him take at least a couple more people with him. Theo says that they are dealing with a dangerous monster. The more people, the more dangerous. He doesn't actually go there specifically to die, but if he senses danger, he will immediately run away from there. And besides, Beige Life is with him. Victor holds his hands together and asks them to be careful. The protagonist with the Begeliaf moves forward. They approach the cave and the protagonist realizes that they are so far from the fields, but the mana is still the same and it comes straight from this cave. The main character doesn't like all this. Going into the lair of an unknown enemy is tantamount to death, he thinks. Suddenly, the guy feels something and looks around. Begeliaf asks Theo what's wrong. The man says that there is someone else there. But who could be there? It looks like the creature they have already met. He thinks that it is only his imagination. He needs to go back. Begeliaf tells Theodore that there is a smell of blood there, and that someone is asking for help. The main character goes into the cave with a lantern in his hands. The main character warns that he will go ahead and shine the light, and Begeliaf should just follow him and watch his step. The guy is very worried, and there is someone else asking for help. They go into some room and look ahead in surprise. They stop in front of the body of a huge boar who is ill and breathing heavily. The main character understands that it looks like a demonic boar, but it is somehow strange in any case. This boar has very terrible wounds. Suddenly, he looks at them angrily and growls. The main character asks him to calm down. The guy apologizes to him for suddenly barging into his house. If he is not hostile towards him, then he will not attack. Theo says that he doesn't mind. Can he treat his wound? Suddenly, something appears behind them. Suddenly, a man appears and hits the protagonist with a sword, shouting that he should not touch the boar. Begeliaf manages to push Theo away from the blow. The main character is amazed by such perfect swordsmanship if it weren't for Begeliaf. The guy understands that this is a person. Theo understands that this means that there are other people here besides them, and suddenly the girl feels ill. A guy catches a fallen girl and asks her if she is okay. He notices that the girl has a fever. The girl suddenly asks the guy if he is Theo. The main character recognizes Jazelle. She smiles. The guy remembers what they experienced together and asks the surprised girl why she is here. She simply greets him with a smile. She stands up and tells the guy that he hasn't changed. She laughs. Theo realizes that it's Jazelle Lulutz. The girl is a hero who saved humanity. She tells him that they finally met. She feels sick, and the guy asks her not to overexert herself. He asks if she ate something again and got poisoned. Jazelle asks who he thinks she is. Lately, she only eats red berries. The guy knew it. The girl asks him to at least smile. The guy sighs and tells the girl that he has a lot of questions for her, but first, he asks her why she tried to kill him. The girl goes into a stupor and admits that she thought Borbor was attacked. The guy asks her name again. The guy asks Jazelle if she is talking about this boar. However, Jazelle says that it is not a boar, but a chimera. The protagonist tells her that she looks completely different from what he imagined. Jazelle says that she is a chimera, although not quite like the ones they saw before. Theo thinks that there is no logic. Well, so be it. If Jazelle says so, then that's how it is. After all, heroes are chosen by the gods and lead people. Their powers and understanding are far beyond those of ordinary mortals. The guy thinks that since Borbor is not dangerous to others, he will need to be examined. The girl asks if she is listening to him. The guy apologizes. The girl admits that she would really like him to help Borbor first. The guy tells her that her intentions are good. She herself is in very bad shape, so let her first heal herself. The girl gets angry and asks to help Borbor first. Otherwise, the baby will be worried. Next to the big boar, there is a small one who grunts pitifully. The guy looks at the girl and thinks that this is what their hero is like, very kind and always puts others above himself. Then the main character says that Borbor will live. He helps Jazelle but let her have a better rest anyway. The girl thanks the guy for this. She tells him that he is amazing as always. She felt much better after the first sip. The guy asks her to stop praising him because she is a hero. She could have cured herself. The girl asks the guy who it is, pointing to the evil Begaljiaf. He tells Theo that she attacked them. She made him very angry. Could he attack her too? The guy understands that he is confused and asks him to stand still because she is not their enemy. The girl understands that his name is Begaljiaf. In fact, she sees such a living dragon for the first time. She calls him cute, and now he's not a cute hippopotamus. He's a cute dragon. The Aleph happily climbs up to her to hug her, and the guy understands that how quickly he changed his mind. Is he really a dragon? He has a couple of questions for Jazelle. However, first they need to return to camp because the others are worried about them. Everyone looks at the fair-haired guy who told them something before in bewilderment and surprise. Jazelle walks with a smile and greets everyone, showing a hand gesture. Everyone around is surprised by her arrival. Theo and Begaljiaf are walking behind the girl. Victor asks her in surprise what she forgot here. Jazelle tells him that they haven't seen each other for a long time. The man first greets her calmly, but then returns to the topic of the question. He turns to Theo and asks him if he can explain it. The guy says that he himself would like to know the answer. Theo asks her how she got here. Jazelle says that like everyone else, they went on an expedition and she asked a friend to give her a lift here. He asks if they know him and understands that they were the ones who sailed in on a small boat. The main character understands that he was not in the cave. So where is her friend now? Victor loudly tells her that this is no longer funny. They ask her about her work in the capital. After all, the hero rewards brave warriors and carries out personal assignments for the king. The girl asks about her job with a smile and tells the news that she was fired. Theo and Victor are shocked. Victor loses consciousness. Theo screams that Victor has lost consciousness again. They ask him to wake up because he just recovered and they have to treat him again. The main character and Jazelle are heading somewhere. The main character says that in order for this not to happen again, she couldn't just say everything as it is. Victor lies down and recovers. The girl runs around in surprise and asks Theo if he did all this. Let him tell her how the well works. The guy looks at the girl gloomily and asks her if she can explain herself first. He scares her. And anyway, what difference does it make that she's here? He didn't like working in the kingdom either. Theo is surprised. 10 years later, after defeating the demon lord, Jazelle had many responsibilities as a hero. The girl was popular and everyone admired her. She always complained about her new duties. Theo asks if she is talking about him giving speeches at ceremonies too. The girl agrees, after all. He was sent on this fun task. And she often talked about this with Lilia. And she came up with a good plan. The guy remembers Lilia, the sorceress of the heroes group. The girl gave him a stack of papers and asked him to take them to the royal castle. Jazelle asked Lilia if these were reports. She answered positively. The girl asks why her name is written on it. She does not remember writing anything like that. Lilia says that the slow maintenance of sewage systems, stagnation in the healthcare sector, she listed every single point that needs to be improved in the kingdom. She says that if she brings all this to the king, there will definitely be a real commotion in the castle. The protagonist is surprised. Jazelle was never interested in fame and honor. That's why she didn't really like her job after the war, because she wanted adventure. However, everyone was just using her. She was the savior of people, and she could also express discontent, but what if? If Jazelle gets involved in politics? The king reads the reports in shock, and the girl says that everyone was scared to death. She had so much fun then. The guy realizes that Jazelle is much more popular than the king himself, and when the powers that be finally realized this, they decided that it was dangerous to leave her in the kingdom and fired her from the castle. So she became an adventurer again. The girl smiles and says that she immediately felt good in her soul. The girl reports that after she thanked Lilia, she remembered that he went to an unknown continent. The girl giggles. To be honest, Jazelle thought that the guy would be surprised when he saw her. The guy understands that this is what she wanted. The girl says that this is exactly it. She asks him to show her the surroundings, but first Theo asks her what she is going to do here. And another question. Who then wounded Boa Boa? The girl wonders. She doesn't even know if he is alone. Theo says that there is nothing to be done. He is too big to be moved here, and his wound is too deep. He does not want to disturb him. Theo offers to visit him tomorrow and says that this is where they have a kitchen. The girl apologizes to the main character for being selfish, but Boa Boa really took care of her. The guy asks about it again. She says that as soon as she arrived here, she immediately tried to find them, but she was unable to find out anything. Jazelle looked for them everywhere, and at some point she got hungry and tired, and that's when she met Boa Boa. The main character asks if she entered into battle with him. The girl says no, because he turned out to be very nice and kind. He even shared food with her and helped her for a couple of days. The main character thinks about whether she could make friends with him without taming skills. He tells her that they have baths here. The girl tells that he was attacked last night. It was too unexpected, then he came back to them, but already being badly wounded. Then he fell asleep, and she ate those red berries. The guy can't believe that someone was even capable of hurting him. Did she see who it was? The girl reports that whoever did this does not look like any monster or animal she has ever seen. However, from a distance he resembles a bear, and his body spreads miasma. But up close he looks more like a human, and his aura is also very frightening. The protagonist is shocked to recognize the creature from the description, with which he himself recently fought. The protagonist asks the girl if the creature looked like him. He shows what the creature looked like, and the girl says it was him. He is exactly the same. The main character knew it. He asks her about what happened after where he ran. Jazelle tells him that she killed him, or she shouldn't have. The guy is amazed that it was so easy for her. The guy tells him that he was able to defeat him only with the help of Bagaliaf. Theo understands that she is a hero and has plenty of strength. The girl apologizes. Jazelle states that she owed Boa Boa a favor and that she had to take revenge on the creature anyway. She was then beside herself with rage and cut the creature with a sword. According to her, it also had huge horns. In general, it was different from the one that the main character defeated. But they are of a certain species, and therefore, for them, their existence poses a huge threat. The guy understands that there are a lot of them. How can they fight them? The girl is surprised by something beautiful. She stands on a cliff and looks at the pond where the sun is setting on the horizon and is amazed by the beauty of it. Jazelle says that she hasn't seen such beautiful landscapes for 10 years, and the main character thinks that she is being dramatic. But the girl thinks that no, because they all once saw such views together, it brings back memories. And the girl has no more valuable memories because that time was wonderful. She remembers all her friends. 10 years have passed since then. She was only 14 years old then. She didn't even realize that she was different from others. But it turned out the way it did. She reflects that there is even something disturbing in this, because once something happened. One day she encountered an enemy that even she couldn't handle. So what should she do then? The girl suddenly fell silent and the guy turns to her, which brings her to consciousness. The guy holds 2 mugs and asks her what's wrong with her, whether she's withdrawn into herself again. Jazelle says that it's her turn to be on duty now, so let him rest. The guy says that he doesn't want to sleep at all. The girl sits calmly and drinks from a mug. The main character addresses the girl. The guy uses the creation and creates a teddy bear, which surprises the girl. She takes it in her hand. The main character thought that something was bothering her lately. Jazelle asks what, and then he decided to treat her like a child. The guy tells her that she is a child. He is the oldest in their group and he has no fighting skills or talents, and she is only 14. And she has already been given the burden of saving the whole world, which is why she doesn't need to shift all the responsibilities onto herself. There are things she can do, but they can. Asking for help is not shameful. After all, they are friends and comrades, the main character and the girl, with a teddy bear in her arms, thoughtfully looking at the fire. Jazelle tells him that since then she always thought that she could never compare to him. Theo wonders if he really said that. She says that he always helped her in everything. He did everything except fight. But now she has grown up and become more useful. She wished she had said it earlier, but she was ashamed, to be honest. When she heard that she was going on a trip, she wanted to go with him. The girl says she wanted to go on another adventure with him, at least until he got tired of her. The guy tells her that they are still friends. He strokes her head, thanking her for coming. The hero joins the protagonist group. Jazelle stands and looks with a smile, showing a greeting gesture. The main character suddenly remembers and asks the girl about that sailor. The girl doesn't remember and the guy explains that she said that her friend gave her a lift. Theo asks Jazelle if she came by boat. Here on the new continent, it is dangerous to be alone. They must look. The girl asks if she told about the sailor. She asks the guy about the fact that didn't she say that it wasn't a human who helped her, A flying dragon appears right in front of them. Victor is happy with the reception they gave Jazelle. He holds a mug in his hand. The girl definitely did not expect to meet a hero in these wild lands. She could not even imagine. Everyone suddenly asks who is next, whether it is Ouroboros, but the main character tries to calm them down. The main character asks them not to forget the main thing. The dragon appears in front of them and they silently look at it. Victor asks if he can explain what the giant dragon is doing here. If he wants him to go down again, the guy is just as surprised as everyone else. The protagonist reports that it is a heavenly dragon, but unnamed because it is not a familiar. In fact, he is an old acquaintance of theirs. They emphasize that they have something in common, but who else? Jazelle, smiling, says that of course it is hers. They met him about 10 years ago during a mission to eliminate the Demon Lord. The Demon Lord's castle was located right in the center of a vast poisonous swamp, the poison of which no one could bear. It could truly be called a fortress. That place was teeming with demons, and also a tribe of dragons who didn't particularly care about the lives of people and demons. Their only hope of getting to the castle was to ask them for help. Everyone was shocked that they were using dragons as carriers. The protagonist reports something like that, but it was not easy. The girl stands happily behind him and people think that the hero is being scared. Their group is something anyone else would have died. Theo says that this is why they know the sky dragon. He definitely didn't expect it to fly all this way. The guy asks the dragon if he is okay. Because he is so far from home, he growls in response and everyone looks at him in bewilderment, except the guy. He reports that now that he thinks about it, he had already felt someone's terrifying presence before. They really did act recklessly. Victor asks how Jazelle got the dragon's help. The guy says that he would also like to know about it. She doesn't have any taming skills. So how did the heavenly dragon bring her here? The girl wonders what to answer. She reports that she was just hanging out in his nest and asking over and over again until he agreed. She remembers what it was like. People understand that another would have died 10 times. If you ask nicely, they will definitely listen. The guy says that Jazelle has always been assertive. This is a good character trait. However, she did not force him or even him. The guy felt the same as he did. The guy thinks that the dragon wanted to see her in action again. The main character understands this. The guy realizes that it's getting more and more restless here. It seems that this place is too small for him. The dragon roars. People think that he is so carefree. Theo tells the dragon that he doesn't have to stay here. Suddenly a wind appeared and the dragon flew into the sky. People are thinking about how Theo is surprising them more and more every day. Theo and Shiro are looking at him. They sit and eat, the two of them thinking about how Jazelle seems to be close to Theo. Shiro asks Theo if she is sad. The girl chews and says that she is not sad, remembering how he stroked her head. The girl angrily pokes her fork into the plate and finally gets into the food. Theo is surprised by this and shows the protagonist that she has finally learned how to use a fork. She notices how the guy is happy with Jazelle and is silent. The guy asks her what is wrong. However, Theo does not decide to tell him anything and just remains silent. Then they go home and morning comes. The protagonist wakes up and wonders what's going on. Shiro, Fio, several wolf cubs and Begeliaf are lying on him. Jazelle is happy and wishes the guy a good morning. She asks the guy how he slept. He says that it was so-so. He just dreamed that he was crushed by a boulder. They notice that Theo is covered in fur. He agrees. Begeljoff is completely smooth. The girl says that it's not fair. He has all the fur. What should a girl do to sleep like that? Jazelle asks why he didn't want to sleep with her. He said that things are different now, so they need to respect some boundaries. Then can she at least keep an eye on them? The wolf cubs jump on the girl, and it seems to her that they can't stop playing with her. She can't breathe. She asks the guy to help. The thing is, Jazelle can quickly become friends with absolutely anyone, and he will never have to worry about her not fitting in with the group. Suddenly, Theo comes up to the guy, holding his hand and awkwardly looking down. He asks her what happened. She says that nothing at all. Theo thinks that when someone says that nothing happened, it usually means that they are very worried about something. The main character asks Curry if she can go with him. He is going to check Boa. The girl realizes that this is the chimera. She says that he doesn't even need to ask, a completely new species. She needs to properly examine his sample. The guy warns that he is injured, so let her be careful. and so the main character asks Jazelle to stay in the camp. She is surprised by this. The girl is indignant because she also wants to visit Boa Boa. The guy asks to stand. She needs to rest because she was poisoned.